If a video didn't hit 1 million views in a day, I would private it.
There's a lot to unpack with what you just said.
It's a nugget of gold, bitch. Do you need a lawyer? You need a business manager? What have I gotten myself into? It takes a special skill to be able to go from short form to long form.
How much was that first brand deal for?
Mixing friends and business is difficult. I hit her up and I'm like, where's my money?
Can you break down the business of Brittany Broski?
OnlyFans is a big part of the pie. My biggest you to this job and to this industry is...
Today on the Colin and Samir Show, we're joined by Brittany Broski. Now, you probably recognize Brittany from this incredibly viral meme of her tasting kombucha. For most creators who experience early and unexpected virality like this, their career just ends there. But Brittany is the exception. She was able to take the momentum from her virality and expand into multiple content formats, all based around her personality and her sense of humor.
How does she do it? We don't know. It's probably AI.
In this episode, we talk about the complexities of her early success and how that led to an incredibly toxic relationship with her first manager, how she's rebounded and rebuilt her business since then, and how she thinks about content formats and building a strong community. Now, before we get into this episode, I want to tell you about our newsletter, The Publish Press. We send it 3 times a week to over 100,000 creators, and we break down the business of creators like Brittany. We've actually covered her 4 times in the press. We started the newsletter because we felt that when we were hearing stories about other creators and their businesses, we could take those lessons and apply them to how we were building our business. So if you're interested in that, if you're interested in hearing more about other creators and how they're building their businesses, go to thepublishpress.com. We put the link in our description. It's totally free to subscribe. All right, now for our interview with Brittany Broski. Brittany, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
I wanted to start with the way that Good Morning America titled your segment on YouTube. Because we were trying to describe in one sentence what you do. And the way they did it,
I think they nailed it.
I think you can't get any better than that.
I think the way they did it is so interesting. They said TikTok sensation Brittany Broski talks new YouTube show, podcast.
Yep.
And in that sentence, there's 3 different formats.
Period.
Of what you do.
Yeah.
And I was curious.
The poor YouTube manager who had to try and
sum
figure
you
that
up.
out. They're like, listen, you need to put TikTok in there, you need YouTube in there, and you need podcasts.
Yeah.
And it's got to be 52 characters.
He doesn't know who I am, too. He's like, well, I don't know what any of these words mean.
Yeah. So how do you describe what you do?
I fucking hate this question because it's like there's not an answer that's not cringy to me. Because I still think, I don't know, we're at this weird cross section of like the internet right now where there are kids in middle school and high school who are growing up who are like, I want to be a YouTuber. But then at the same time, it's like being a YouTuber isn't cool. Like it's actually really lame when you think about it. So I think that it's this weird, like, there's a pride in, wow, I get to do this for my job, but also, like, I'm hyper self-aware that it is very cringe, where I'm like, hey, what's up, you guys? Yes. You know, like, I don't really find much career pride in that sort of aspect.
Interesting.
But I think that at the base of it, even saying, like, comedian is like, I haven't, earned my flowers in that sense, I guess, because of, I haven't really done stand-up. I haven't done, the sort of traditional things that make someone a comedian. But I think to my core, I do make funny content online. So in that case, sure, I'm a comedy creator. If that's even, like something that makes sense. Like if I tell my pawpaw, like my Mimi and pawpaw, I'm a content creator, they're like, what does that mean?
Right.
And so it's like this weird thing of you either get it or you don't. It's just how I feel. It's very strange.
It's kind of exhausting to try and define yourself in this context. Yeah.
Without the connotations that come with certain descriptors. I'm a YouTuber. That kind of conjures up like, Mr. Beast, James Charles, Tana Mojo.
Yeah.
Or even like prankster.
Yes. And it's like there's a cringy, clickbaity, soulless part of that whole era of YouTube. And then it's like, oh, I'm a TikToker. People still in their minds think of Charlie D'Amelio and Addison Rae. And it's like, well, I'm not that. But I do make YouTube and TikTok videos. So it's like, it's this weird limbo of I don't really know what I do.
Yeah, it's interesting. And you put out a lot of content too.
Sorry.
Yeah, but you do. You do.
Sorry about that.
It's pretty amazing. You put out TikTok content. You put out, obviously, YouTube content. You have 2 shows, Royal Court and Broski Report.
Yeah.
And the Broski Report, I would watch on YouTube. And then I perused over to Spotify and saw like the amount of reviews you have on Spotify. It's also really significant.
They ride.
Do you like consider yourself a a podcaster? Like, is the craft of Brittany Broski, like, you need to be kind of talking or in conversation and finding comedy through that? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I definitely would say I thrive in conversational comedy. But I mean, the Broski Report kind of proves that I can talk to a fucking brick wall.
Right.
And,
by yourself for
by
50
myself.
minutes, which is crazy.
Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you. Seriously, guys, stop. People are like, how are the people in the room not laughing? Babe, it's me. Like, it's literally me in a room. I'm running the cameras, I'm running the mic, and then I send it off to my editor. Like, it's me in that room. Literally, I'm talking to myself. And it's
Sometimes laughing at yourself.
laughing at myself. There is not a funnier person in that room than me. So,
Nailed it.
so I think that is kind of like, you either can do that. We were talking earlier, and I'm going to kind of, the process here. We had a pre-interview call.
Oh my God.
Exposed.
You just exposed us.
You know what, guys? This is all about the inside track.
Yes,
we're
that's
exposing it. And you brought up a good point of it takes a special skill to be able to go from short form to long form.
Yes.
And I think that's what that is. Pretty early on, I started doing YouTube videos because I wanted to make sure that audience would follow me to a different platform really early on. And so I think that kind of lends itself to, if you can talk to a camera for 45 minutes, you can podcast. So it's really not that much different, me talking to a mic than me doing a YouTube video in my head. It's just a little longer. So I don't know. I think it's more fun as well. It's fun for me to be like, I can talk about whatever I want and I don't have to worry, is this YouTube video going to trend? Is it going to do well? Is the thumbnail clickbait? Is this whatever? It's like, I can just talk. And I am so fortunate that people want to listen, because it's like, that's the hardest part, is getting people to tune in and care about what you're talking about, even if it's nonsensical. That's such a blessing at the core.
I think it's even harder to get 1 million plus people to click into a video that's just kind of your face, and there's a video you have that's like talking about my favorite TikToks.
Yeah.
And like to get 1 million plus people to click into that, to just opt in, means that they have a deep connection with you.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it's not the idea necessarily that's getting them in the door, it's you.
Right.
And that's a challenging thing to do.
Are there any
crazy
comps in traditional entertainment for your craft or what you do? Like being a personality. I guess I think of it sort of similar to late night hosts, where maybe it's like James Corden. There are a certain group of people who just like James Corden.
And he is my twin, by the way.
Okay, great, yeah, sure.
If you think about it, we are twins.
So James Corden.
Colin doesn't know how to react to this. He's calculating if he's getting trapped in like some.
He's like,
am I about to get canceled?
I'm like, has she brought up James Corden before?
Vehemently opposed to James Corden.
Great. Okay, actually. So a different late night host who is known for their personality, Seth Meyers.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here's the tea.
You remember what she said about Seth Meyers?
These are Come on, Colin, you didn't do your research. Well, here's the tea with all those. I think Seth Meyers might be the best out of all of those. Is like these straight white men who are kind of at their core kind of problematic always, and it's like that structure of late night is very antiquated. I've always kind of said, but I do think that apples to oranges comparison of like what me and sort of like Emma Chamberlain do on YouTube is comparable to the Jimmy and Jimmy Kimmels and Fallons of the world.
All those guys.
All the Jimmys.
All the Jimmys and James.
All the Jimmys and Jameses.
Yeah.
And it's a personality, it's hosting, it's emceeing, that sort of thing. But at the same time, having that banter with people is such a skill that I didn't know I had. And so it is kind of like, where does that fit in? Because I can do this on my own. I have more fun when I'm doing it with people. But also, is there something that's beyond sort of like the live Hollywood aspect of it? Is it voice acting? Is it real acting? Is it stand-up? Like the world's kind of your oyster, but at the same time, that's so daunting because I didn't want to do any of this. Like at my core, like I didn't ever see this being a real career path. And so it's weird to wrap my head around all the possibilities that are kind of at my feet, especially with YouTube. Like everyone wants to be a YouTuber. So it's like, I don't know, what do you do with that audience once you have it? It's very daunting.
Yeah, and you're practicing the craft and figuring it out in public. Like people are watching you do it.
Thanks for reminding me.
But
That's great.
But if you go back then, like why start uploading to TikTok?
To make my friends laugh.
Just to make your friends laugh.
Yeah.
And place us into the world when you upload your first TikTok.
Well, I downloaded TikTok because I was like, what the fuck are they doing on this app? I was posting the same shit I post on TikTok now on Snapchat stories in like 2018, 2019. It was the same type of video with like the filters or just ramblings or whatever. It was really strange. At A&M, at Texas A&M, I had added like friends of friends of friends to my Snapchat to the point where I was posting Snapchat videos that were getting like 1,500 views. People I didn't know. So I had a taste of what that felt like. We would go out to the bar district, like next to the campus, and people would run up to me and be like, you don't know me, but I know da-da-da, and she told me to follow you on Snapchat, and you're so funny. And it was like, thank you. What the fuck?
Yeah.
So that was happening when I was still in college, 2017, 2018. Then TikTok comes around. I get ads for it on Snapchat of like furries and cosplayers. And I was like, what is this mental illness happening on this app? I've got to see it. And I've got to take part in it. And so I downloaded it, scrolled for a bit, and I was like, let me see if I can upload here, then I can send it to my friends directly. And that was kind of the genesis of it, as I uploaded it probably 9 p.m. one night in 2019. And this was like July 2019. I was still working at my bank job. The next morning I wake up, 30,000 likes on this video. 30,000 likes in 2019 was like, I'm the most famous person on this planet, maybe.
I mean, still, that's a lot of likes.
That's
a lot of people to see something. Yeah.
Especially there were nowhere near, like people forget this. TikTok was not a popular app in 2019.
Yeah,
it was like unheard. It was still Musical.ly kind of.
Yeah.
Like it had the same sort of content. And so to have that many eyes on it was like, whoa. And then a month goes by, and then 2 months go by, and then I hit 1 million before the end of the year. And it was like, and then the pandemic hits, and it's like 2 million, 5 million, 7 million. And it's like, how does your psyche keep up with the reach that you're gaining? And so it was very weird from the beginning to have success. It was never this like, I got to grind for this. It was like, I just uploaded it for shits and gigs, and it happened. So it's...
Was it the same emotion, like making your friends laugh, seeing that 30,000 people were engaging with something and laughing, or 1 million people were engaging with something and laughing?
That's a good question. Yeah, it is.
Same emotion.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Just on a larger
Because you don't
scale.
get that like reciprocity in person, right?
Right.
Of like, if you're standing in front of 3 people and they start laughing, it like feels really good.
Of course.
You do it on the internet and you're like, did they laugh? Or
right. Am I speaking into the echo chamber? Yeah, I think it does translate though from the comments and just the addicting feeling of attention online and how dangerous and insatiable it is. I do think it compares. It does compare.
Best drug I've ever tried.
Love it.
How did you navigate sort of like how like vulnerable and open you were? Because if you watch those like early, like the first TikToks, it's
We
like,
don't have to.
It's like, we did it this morning.
We did it.
It's like, here's like extra hair of mine on the shower wall. Don't worry about that. Like,
Now, mind you, you're talking about that in the middle of talking about having diarrhea.
Am I having diarrhea? Yeah, I am. Okay? Is that a hairball in the shower? Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
and this is like, from my understanding, like from the beginning.
Yeah.
100%.
Like out of the gates.
Out the
Here's who
gates.
I am. Did you have that comfort with your friends? Is that like, that's the type of stuff with your friends? So here it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here you go, everybody. Like,
Yeah, and I think it never really, for better or worse, it never crossed my mind to be like, maybe reel it in. It never was kind of on the table of, I need to censor a part of myself or my humor because it's public. If anything, that aided in getting all those eyes on me because, and this is so cringy to be like, authentic, but that is really the buzzword that they threw around, is through all that of like, she's so authentic, she's so real, she's so herself, she helps me be myself. And it's like, what a genuine statement at its core, but I think that capitalism has kind of diluted that word of authenticity and being real and whatever. So it was never a strategic thing on my end. It was just, that's what I was talking about.
I think for me, like some of that stuff aside, the thing that I really liked the most is I was like watching a ton of your TikToks was you breaking.
Yeah.
Like laughing during your own accent or during your own sketch. There's something that felt like you're really bringing me into the early process of you just trying shit out.
Wow, yeah.
And even like that actually makes me feel like a friend because that's what happens.
Period.
Like we don't actually like make the perfect joke and then all laugh.
Right.
Right? Like it's fun to see you messing around.
Wow.
And that to me was like, I feel like I'm a part of it.
Yeah. I think that might be the magic. You just
That's
kind of
what felt like the
defined it.
magic.
Let's retitle the GMA YouTube video with that.
Yeah.
Whatever he just said, just send it to
How
them.
many characters we're working with
Yeah.
there? Yeah, I think that you nailed it. It's I always thought, during SNL, the skits where they laugh are the funniest ones.
They're the funniest.
Totally.
So I was like, I enjoy watching that content. That's the type of content I want to put out. So if I'm doing voices back and forth, and it's ridiculous because I'm talking to myself as different people in my apartment in Dallas, America. It's like, I want to, this isn't this serious comedy sketch that I need to edit and whatever.
Yeah.
I'm on the toilet most of the time. So it's like, there is a sincerity in keeping in the loop of me making myself giggle. And I think people love that because it's fun to watch at the end of the day.
I think there was kind of these chapters in like what audiences have craved. If you go back, like with television, you think about like the family sitcom. It's like, okay, we can kind of see ourselves in that, but it's a hyperbolic version of it.
Yeah.
We go from there to reality TV, right? And
Yeah.
we're like, ooh, that looks and feels a lot more like real life. You go from there to social and think about like Instagram story or Snapchat stories. One of the most, at the time, was the most real version of someone. It's like, that's
Definitely.
exactly what happened in that room. And I think as the pandemic hit, that stuff kind of came to a head where we were having a collective experience. And we were like, I just want to see what real people are doing right now.
Absolutely.
Like what is actually happening in those rooms.
Yeah.
So timing wise, I think it probably couldn't have been better timing.
And so much of it is right place, right time, like truly. And I always say this of, if I tried to do what I did in August 2019 today, I would just be a number in the ether.
Yeah.
It was this perfect sequence of events of TikTok kind of taking off the way that it did, me being kind of early to the platform and me posting the type of stuff I was posting, because you're right, on YouTube, it was this bubble that had burst of creators who are so far removed from reality. Like Dramageddon and all these, the beauty community and this and that. And even if you take it back to like Sam Pepper and those sort of pranks where it's like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, how did it get, Jake Paul, how did it get to this point where we're making this content that is dangerous, it's scary, it's, your audience is 8-year-old children? Like, what are we talking about? It's not what I'm watching, but for some reason, it's the most viewed videos on YouTube. People were sick of that. Like you said, that era was over, and they were craving that sort of real, and I think also at this time, socially and culturally, like the Kardashians are on top.
Yeah.
It's these unattainable beauty standards. People have never felt worse about themselves. And now guess what? We're all trapped inside to think about it.
Right.
And so definitely I think the pandemic, and a lot of creators would sadly agree with me, was the best thing that happened to our careers.
Yeah,
Because
for sure.
everyone is stuck inside. They're watching, they're consuming. And so those numbers, you were able to grow so rapidly. But it's this, are you able to sustain it? And I think that's the question.
So when we talk about sustainability and like sustaining momentum, you had some of the most unexpected momentum from your kombucha TikTok.
Sure. It really smells like a public restroom. You know what? No. Well.
For someone who didn't want this career, for that to be the thing that kind of exploded is pretty wild.
It is.
We always talk about TikTok in the context of like, it's like playing the lottery.
Definitely.
Like you're throwing content up there and you just don't know, but all of a sudden one can just hit.
Yeah, and that's the one. And it's the one that is going to piss you off too.
Yeah.
It's the one you put no effort into.
Right. Yeah. They know how to get you though. Like, they know how to keep you hooked.
Absolutely.
Talk through that experience and that like momentum of that. And what do you do with that momentum?
I think that from being chronically online from the ripe age of 11, I'm talking 2 Girls, 1 Cup, Blue Waffle. We've been in it together, team.
Yeah.
I think that
That was a tough time on the internet.
it was, and it was.
That's a tough
Especially
time.
for my underdeveloped brain, it was a
Internet
lot
was really figuring
visually.
itself out.
Yes. Really defined who I am as a person.
I just have visions of someone putting that on every screen in like the computer
Yeah.
lab
Yeah.
at every high school.
Yeah.
Like, for what reason,
Yeah.
by
For
the
what
way?
reason other than just, let's see what happens here.
Yeah.
Hey, look.
Yeah.
Okay, look, now what?
Yeah, teachers don't know about this, but we do.
Yeah, for better or worse. I think that from being chronically online And having been a consumer of this fucking media for that long, I just kind of intrinsically knew what to do. Of like, I've seen people get pigeonholed. I've seen people be known as the Alex from Target or this or that. You know, like you're that guy forever. And I was like, I'll be damned if that happens to me. And so when all those eyes were on me, it was kind of simultaneous where I had my own track of what I knew to do. And then at the same time, this sort of predatory management company had contacted me. And I was
how
like...
How soon after? Because like Kombucha video is uploaded. Does it... It's like pretty immediate that it gets traction, right?
Yeah. It was like... I uploaded it on TikTok. A week later, it was on Twitter. On gay Twitter. And then from there, it just exploded. I mean, I was seeing it on climate change posters in Australia and in Russian and Arabic, and it was everywhere. And I was like, I don't know what that says, but I bet it's funny. I bet it's a good one.
Yeah.
And so shortly after that, someone reached out to me and said, which period, she's smart when she did this. She was like, I'm working on a kombucha campaign for this company and we'd love to feature you. And I was like, yeah, you're a genius, dude. Yeah. And I'm surprised that no one did it before her. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. She made me sign an exclusive contract with her for 2 fucking years. And then way above the sort of market norm, 20% she was taking from me.
Okay.
And the market norm is 10. And from there, it was kind of simultaneous of like, I was making sure I made a Twitter. Well, I had my Twitter. It was always Brittany Broski. I made an Instagram that was Brittany Broski because my private Instagram is my real name. Like it's not, it's private. I made a Facebook page for Brittany Broski. And then of course I had my TikTok. So it was like, you need to be unilaterally across all platforms, posting different content. Then probably September, October 2019, I made my YouTube channel. And that video immediately did well because people wanted to see more of me. And I was like, okay, I can do that. And so from there, it was like, I need to make sure that people are seeing that I can do accents, I can do characters, I can do impressions, I can do, you know, funny tweets. I can be funny in text format, long form, and short form. And that was never this like, okay, how are we going to do it? It was like, I just did it because you had to. And with the promise of brand deal money coming in, babe, you have to. Like, you have to get those numbers up. You have to put content out. Meanwhile, you have all of the platforms telling you, you need to be posting once a day, if not more. YouTube videos once a week or maybe twice or 3 times a week. Instagram, you should be posting every day. You know, it's just like these stupid, not unsustainable, like, honestly, burnout numbers. You cannot post on every single platform more than 1 time a day. That's insane. I don't even post on Instagram more than like once a week. That's insane. So I was going and going and going. I was burning myself out. And I was like, we have to do this. And then it all came to a head when the company that I signed with started stealing money from me, which was so fun. And I got into a lawsuit with them. And I was like, I'd moved to LA by that point. And it was like, what have I done? And little did I know everything was about to really begin. Yeah. But it was scary. And I do think that that's an unrealistic standard to set for content creators just to get eyes on your content. You know, it's like, if the content's good, eyes will come.
Yes, I agree with that. There's a lot to unpack with what you just said.
Sorry for the mini monologue.
No, that's all right.
I want to go back to sort of the moment you decide to go full-time.
Yeah.
Which I believe happens when you lose your job. You're working at a bank.
Yeah.
And essentially, you've kind of like lost control of your image because of this viral meme.
Yeah.
The bank is concerned. You lose your job.
Yep.
Can you bring us into that moment? And are you
humiliated?
Okay. But are
Hope
you
that helps.
Yeah. Humiliated and afraid of the next step in terms of career? Or like, I guess, were you happy at the bank? Was that a good life for you? Or did you know you wanted to be creative and do something creative?
I always had the sort of like undercurrent pulling me towards a creative life. But I was raised with a very strict military dad who was like, you need to have a plan B. And I never really took that leap to be like, when I turn 18, I'm auditioning for SNL. Also, that's not how it works. Me being like, I'm just moving to New York. No, you're not, by the way. Yeah. I never, tried stand-up. I never did any of those things. I was like, this is not a sustainable career. Even if I do find success in like little comedy clubs in Dallas, that's not going to keep my lights on. Like I need a real job. So I just kind of let it die. I never really, beside entertaining my friends and like having fun on the internet, no, it never ever crossed my mind. And so when I got fired, I literally was like, I drove to Texas Roadhouse and I was like, you guys hiring? Like I fully was like, I'm going to do a service job until I get another corporate job. It never really crossed my mind to pursue this professionally until that first brand deal came in. And I was like, here we go.
What was that? Was it a kombucha brand deal?
It was GT Dave's Kombucha.
GT Dave.
GT
What
Dave.
a wild
Dave.
character.
It's so full circle too. And it was kind of like, I've had these moments along the way that's like, I know that was supposed to happen. Okay, I know this is supposed to happen. The reason I fucking tried kombucha in the first place is because of Cody Ko and Noel. Because of that video they made. And I was like, I love them. Like, they're my favorite creators. And so I out on a whim, bought it and did it. And that's kind of, and then I ended up with GT Dave being the brand that I worked with. I got to meet Cody and all them eventually, and they followed me, and it was like the happiest day of my life. It was like, this is so full circle. And then I went to a live show that Cody and Noel did in Houston, and they shouted me out in the crowd, and I was like, no one's more famous than me.
That's
No
cool.
one's more famous than me, actually.
How much was that first brand deal for?
I think total it was like 5,000, but out of that came airfare, food, hotel. So I went home probably
Plus
with like
20%.
And then 20%'s taken.
Yeah.
I came home with probably like $700 and I was like,
Yeah,
rich.
was that like a big, like $5,000, knowing that was possible? Was that like
The most amount of money I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because my paychecks at the time were like $1,200.
Right.
And it's like my rent was $1,200. So I got paid twice a month, immediately half of it's gone. So it was making $40,000 a year, a $5,000 brand deal, even if I didn't realize, that's going to be pennies in the bucket when you actually get that money. Also, when you get that money, 90 days.
Yeah.
It's just, I was like, this is it. And so with what I was doing on the A side with the content and my management company was doing on the B side with the business, I was like, we got this, guys. And then it all went tits up.
Right. I'm so curious, like one of the things that a lot of creators, and we talked to Marquez Brownlee about this, like he said, the thing he's most grateful for is that he never had a viral video. Because in the beginning, like a big pop viral video, because that can kind of color what your decision making is.
Absolutely.
Like trying kombucha, that could signal to you like, oh, I should just try things and be the girl who tries things.
Absolutely.
Did that cross your mind? And was that like, or what was the immediate next content strategy of like, these people know who I am?
Yeah. It was a weird sort of community that I had already built only on TikTok, where people knew I'd had a couple videos go viral.
Got it.
And the first one that actually went viral was a depression meal test where I'm laying in bed and I made a depression meal of brown apples that had gone bad and then dry chocolate chips. Yum. And I made that video of me just like laughing hysterically at how fucking ridiculous and miserable that meal was. And that went viral. And so I had a couple hits, and then kombucha was the first one to make it off of the platform. So on TikTok, this really special thing was happening where people knew me already, not just from kombucha. If anything, they hadn't seen the video because that was on Twitter. And so from that, I did make my first YouTube video ever was part 2 of trying kombucha. And then quickly I was like, we're not doing all this.
That's not it.
We're not doing that.
Smart.
Then I did a makeup tutorial. And that one went viral on YouTube.
Really?
Wow.
So it was like,
That's
and it's since
wild.
been privated because I can't stand to watch it because who the fuck was that?
Yeah, understood. That's
And
fair.
it's just really, I don't know if y'all have that experience where it's like even 3 years ago.
We've been making YouTube videos together for 12 years. So just, you can find some stuff that we're not proud of for sure. Yeah. We haven't cleaned it all up. Yeah.
I'm saying, I was like, I don't know what was going through my brain. And so I started diversifying the content, and it really, really paid off.
Interesting. And was that conversations with the management company, or just you just knew it?
My management company sucked ass and balls.
Yeah.
They were bad. Everything in my career creatively up until mid 2020 was me. And that's when I brought on my editor, who's my fucking saving grace, Stanley. And he
Shout out
literally,
Stanley.
shout out Stanley. And he was someone I followed on TikTok because he's so good. Like he was a short film creator. And he was like in college at the time, just like a little 19-year-old shithead. And I was like, he's so funny and talented. We became friends. And then he was in college and I was starting to make internet money. And I was like, how does $50 sound to edit my video? And he was like, sounds like 50 free bucks.
Yeah. Sounds like 50 free bucks.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so from there, we started working together, and a lot of the pivotal moments in my career, I really can accredit to him. Like he's been such a saving grace for me. But up until then, it was all me.
At that time that you're working with Stanley, are you in LA at that point yet?
I moved to LA December 2019.
Okay.
Yeah. Right before the panty hit.
Right before.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's dig in a bit to the management company, because I'm curious, like this moment of deciding to go all in, like,
sorry. You mind?
You can just chuck it at the screen.
Sorry.
I remember when Colin and I were first, like, we had like very small amounts of traction on this channel and like ended up through outreach, meeting with some agents. And I was like, this is our ticket.
Yeah.
You know, like this is our ticket. If we can get them to be into us and represent us, then that's what, like.
Because we all making money before then?
I mean, we made money as like producers. We'd produce things, but not our own brand, not really.
Yeah.
Actually, probably zero.
So it was a passion project.
It was not. It was not branded as a passion project internally, but the longer it went on, that wasn't making money externally. We were like, yeah, it's just for fun. We just make these YouTube videos for fun.
To justify it.
Yeah, you just have to justify your actions.
But it was strange because I felt very validated by some of the viewership, even though it wasn't very high.
Sure.
So it's like, I feel like a professional at this.
Right.
Period.
Although I am making no money.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
No.
So the connections to like agents almost to me felt like someone was reaching their hand down from like the cloud of show business to be like,
100%.
I'm picking you. You can come up with me.
Well, even the word agent is like, my agent.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm fucking Tom Cruise, bitch.
And even one meeting, they start telling you who you are.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Yeah.
I guess.
But you quickly,
All right, you've known. You've always
Thank you for saying it.
Yeah.
Yes.
but I think it's really important for young creators to recognize that like when an agent or manager signs you, they actually don't take on too much risk.
Yeah.
They almost take on zero outside of their time, depending on how much time they do spend on you.
Yeah.
Because they're also kind of gauging they're making their bets on different talent. And it's like, great, if Brittany Broski takes off, amazing. If she doesn't, no problem.
No harm, no foul.
No harm, no foul.
Yeah.
And so that's a really important thing to know going into those relationships. And I'm curious if you could pull out any other lessons from that experience for you of there's a ton of creators who have early traction, get emails, I'd love to represent you.
Absolutely. It's a very, very predatory environment, especially today when, and I was lucky early on. I had a friend reach out, not a friend, he was a journalist of all people. His name is Yashar Ali. And he reached out and he was like, I think you are so funny and so talented. And like, I think you should be represented by the right people. And I was like, who is this fucking dude? Like, he had a check mark. So I was like, oh my God, he's famous. He was a journalist. And he has been my champion from very early on. And he kind of laid it out for me what the traditional landscape of Hollywood looks like, because how would we know that? You know, like how would I ever know that? Even as a fan of YouTubers or celebrities, I don't know the inner workings.
Also, when did we become a part of Hollywood, right? There was kind of a moment in time where it was like, oh, I guess we are entertainment.
Yes.
And it's probably the pandemic that flipped that, right?
Absolutely was. But even before the pandemic, like UTA is the first, I mean, at the time and still maybe today, their digital talent department was the best in the business and this and that. And they name dropped to me of like, we have Rhett and Link and we have this and all, I was
They didn't name drop us.
And not at the time. No, they did not. We will be having a word. This was like 2019 though.
Yeah, we were in representation.
No one was name dropping us.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, so that was even more special to me of like, they have Rhett and Link.
Yeah,
Like,
that's cool.
I loved Rhett and Link. I still do. And so that was part of the reason why I agreed to kind of take that step. But Yashar really explained to me, like, here are the three big players, CAA, WME, whatever. This is what an agent does. This is what a manager does. You need a lawyer. You need a business manager. You need probably maybe a personal assistant. You need to buy this equipment. You need to whatever. And it was like, what have I gotten myself into? Like, this is a full-blown job. And I don't think I thought about it like that. And that's kind of the biggest, if I could give any tip or piece of advice, is that this is a job. It's the most fun job you could ever have, but like, You have responsibilities. You have people relying on you. You have a team around you. If you don't work, they don't work. If you don't eat, they don't eat, you know? And that's a lot to have on you on top of keeping your millions of fans happy. And I know that sounds like, let me play the fucking violin, but it's like, it can get kind of a lot of pressure sometimes if I'm not feeling funny, or if I'm burnt out, or if I'm tired, or if I'm just like, you know, you can't be on all the time, especially when your job is to be a personality. I'm not like that all the time. I'm like that a lot of the time because I have probably undiagnosed ADHD, but Lord knows. And so to take that of what you're known as online and like try to apply that into a daily work schedule is crazy.
Yeah, it's also, you're also like productizing it, right, and commodifying it, which is what
we will take this much of her creativity, slot it right there.
Yes,
which is what inevitably it's just this inevitable cycle of even what you were talking about of when did YouTube become this weird place of like sensationalized content? It's like, well, it was inevitable because it's a commodified version of creativity. So at some point, as you're building your brand and you have more overhead, you're going to need to fit the thing you do. Everyone's going to go, do the thing you do.
Yep.
Here's some money. Do that thing.
And you just push it and push it and push it until it gets to Sam Pepper, I kill my best friend prank. It's like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Right.
It's insane. But yeah, back to the agency stuff. That was very... UTA was legitimate and still is. Yeah. And the company I was working with... We share the same agents. Yes. And we do, and which is so funny. Yeah. Wish I'd known that before I shot you a DM.
Right.
Kind of humiliating on my part. But it was this weird thing because I signed a UTA and I was also signed to this company who claimed to be managers and agents. Hey, that's kind of counterintuitive, right?
Thing, yeah.
And so they were fighting internally and I was just trying to make content. And I also am 22. I just turned 22. And I didn't know. I didn't know anything. You know, I could barely do my taxes. And so they're fighting and there's tension and there's strife and they don't know who should be, like, they're securing me money, but also this other company's securing me money. And it's like, they're not communicating. And then I'm signing contracts and those aren't communicating. And it's just like a legal nightmare. And
that's a lot. Jumping from like working at a bank to that world that fast is
night and day.
Is intense. Yeah.
It was. The beginning of my career with like the agency / management company that was doing all that fuckery with my money, I had done $30,000 worth of brand deals. And then it sort of became this, like I was getting deal after deal after deal. And my manager just stopped responding. And she had signed so many people and everyone was leaving. And I was next. I was like, I don't want to stick around for this. Like, she was so unprofessional and it was just not a good situation. And I was miserable in it. And I had just moved to LA with $5,000 in my pocket. First month's rent was $4,000. And it was like, here we go. So I was running out of money. I was in a state that, quite frankly, scared me. Like, right before I left, everyone in my family was like, LA is one of the most dangerous cities in LA, in America. And I was like, oh, awesome. Thanks for telling me that. Yeah. And so I'm stuck here. I had just moved with my roommate, Sarah Shower, who I met for the first day when we moved in. I did not meet her before that, which is a retrospectively crazy thing to do. And so time was running out, money was running out, and then she wasn't responding. I had done $30,000 worth of brand deals with this company. And because it's an agency, they had the brand pay the company to take commission and then pay me. And on top of that, it's the fucking net 90, where from the moment they invoice, they have 90 days to pay me. That's 3 months.
Yeah.
So I had done the brand deals in like September, October, and I still wasn't getting paid because it wasn't 90 days yet. And they send it by snail mail. Oh my God, I could bitch for fucking hours about it. All that was kind of coming to a head, and she had all this money. And I hit her up and I'm like, where's my money? And she was like, I can't believe you're leaving me. Like, you're this, you're that, whatever. Like, this is just unbelievable. I ended up having to enter into an arbitration lawsuit with her.
So basically she withheld she got paid.
She got paid.
And
did not pay
it out to you.
Wow.
And contacting the brands was futile because they had already paid the money. You know, they're not going to issue another check. It already cleared in her account. I find a lawyer who... the legal fees by the end of all of it were $30,000. And thank God by this point, UTA had stepped up. I was signing to a new management company. Someone was helping me kind of who was associated with the first company, who he left to. Like all these things were happening where I was out $30K, which is insane. That's like, I've never in my life seen that much money. And she had stolen it from me. And in the meantime, UTA is getting me deals, but they're small and they're few and far in between. And it's like, I'm earning that money back so I can still pay my rent.
And those are TikTok
and it's
deals.
TikTok money. And I'm getting money so I can keep my lights on, whatever. But all the money that I'm earning is going to immediately rent and then to this fucking lawyer. Come to find out at the end of all of it, I've paid him almost, it was like $25K or something that I ended up paying him. He goes, she is completely broke. She spent all of your money. She has no assets that we can seize. She has no house. She has no car. She's sleeping on a friend's couch. She stole my money. She stole a bunch of other clients' money, and it's just gone.
Wow.
And he goes, there's nothing I can do. And I said,
Oh, so you didn't even get the money to pay the legal fees. You just paid the legal fees out of pocket.
I never got the money back.
Oh, wow.
So I was out 45, 50K by that point.
Wow.
And that was my first learning lesson of like,
welcome to Hollywood.
Literally, like, oh shit, girl, they don't care if I live or die.
Yeah.
And then UTA was just a saving grace because that's when the pandemic hit and we were all stuck inside. And then it was like the deals just kept coming because all these companies were being forced to, correct course to digital advertising. And hey, I got a big billboard right here on the big forehead. So it was like this influx of, I felt like it was the universe being like, you learned your lesson. Be careful who you align with. Be careful who you trust. Be careful how you're spending your money, because I, out the gate, was like, yeah, I want the best lawyer. And I got him, and then he came back and was like, nothing I can do. Yeah. I was like, facts, right. Love it. Loving that. So it sucked. And thank God nothing like that has happened since because I learned my lesson. But that is, I've talked to a few creators who a similar thing has happened to them.
Right.
And either through NDA or through whatever, they can't talk about it. I never signed a fucking NDA, and I don't want to give her airtime of the company or what her name was, but like it sucked. It sucked because I was so excited about Hollywood and moving here and doing this as a job. And then to have that kind of the air sucked out of me immediately. It was like, do I even want to do this?
Yeah.
Like, are these the players in my life that I really want to engage with for the rest of time?
Yeah.
There was a moment then where I was like, I would rather be working at the fucking bank. I was so miserable. But then the pandemic hit and it was like, I was also miserable then, but it was like a different sort of, okay, things are working, things are kind of moving. And then to get to where I am now is like, I don't think I would be as successful if that hadn't happened, which is unfortunate.
You're lucky it happened early in your
Absolutely.
career. Really early. So that's like, and you're lucky that this is going to sound, I don't know how this is going to sound coming out, but you're lucky it was only, $30,000-$40,000.
Right.
Right.
Like, well, in the grand scheme of things, it's like, I look back and I'm still like, oh.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. It's your whole salary at the bank. But, but in the context of how big you've become now and like what that means in the context of the business of Brittany Broski, it's like, it's a worthy lesson. To invest in that lesson that much, if that's how much it cost for that lesson, that's good.
And it made you perhaps more concerned with creating stable ground to create from.
And now we get to tell the story so other people can be careful. Because it is something you have to be very careful with.
Well, and it's the risk you run of signing with these no-name companies that are like, they're over-promising and under-delivering, and they have no real credits. They have no real connections. They're actually leaning on you as the creator to work your connections with the app and with other creators and with brands.
They're meeting brands through you.
Yes.
Because they're reaching out about
That's
you.
exactly what it turned into with this woman. It was like, she was having me DM brands to be like, would you want to work with me? Bitch, I can do that on my own. Why are you taking 10% from me? And there was a moment in time where this company, God, I know she's kicking herself. This company in like October, September of 2019 had Charlie D'Amelio, Dixie, Addison Rae, me, the Lopez brothers, if you remember them, they were TikTokers, all of these superstar TikTokers, and then lost it all.
Wow.
Because she was so unprofessional and so she was in over her head. And I think that is it's deserved and it's karma. If you're going to fuck over all those young, ambitious people for money, it's like, I don't really, So UTA really saved me in that.
I think it can be confusing sometimes who has the leverage in that relationship when you're young and it's early.
Yeah.
Because again, they're coming to you and saying, I can build you a career.
Right.
Right. And I can get you, and then they do get you a deal and you're like, oh, okay. So they've now this person has become my ticket to making money.
But that's not true.
But it's actually not true.
No.
And you have to continuously recognize that you are the boss and they work for you.
Period.
They're doing a service for you.
You're the moneymaker.
But a lot of times you also, if you're a creative, you don't want to be a boss.
Yep.
You're like, just take care of me. Right. And so it's this weird balance that you have to figure out of like, they work for me, but I also don't really like confrontation.
Exactly.
I don't want to talk about business with them.
I'm a people pleaser, so I don't want to ever have anyone be mad at me.
I'm a funny person. I just go and be funny and make people laugh. Like I don't want to be in a Zoom arguing about commission rates or like that's crazy. And I actually don't know how that gets solved because now the amount of independent creators there are, we have to play that role. You don't have a choice, right? Unless you have your brother next to you or your cousin, like someone you can really trust who's like, and that even sometimes doesn't work.
No, working with family and friends is it's the opposite of what you should do.
Finding quality representation is a huge unlock
hard.
because it obviously brings you great deals. Yeah. But it also, the most important thing is you just want to feel safe.
Yeah.
Like I just want to feel that while I'm here creating this show, no one's taking advantage of you.
Exactly.
You know, you just want to feel safe. Like these people you can trust, they're working on your business. And also there's a clear professional relationship.
Right.
Where it's like, what happened with you? The thing that we always say is you don't ever want to be anyone's biggest anything, right? Like you don't want to be a brand's biggest spend. I actually don't really want to be an agency's biggest talent. Like I don't want anyone to have that imbalance with my creative work.
That's what ended up happening is the talent left this company and I was the only one left and she was using my name to sign people. And it's like, that is scary. First of all, I'm your most friend. That's upsetting.
Yeah.
But on top of that, it's like, I'm not your fucking bargaining power.
Yeah, you don't want the stakes to be so high for them that like that 10 or 20% that they make off of you is just that's how they live.
Yeah.
Then it's like becomes, how are they going to guide you in a direction of being like, this is good for your brand?
Yes.
It's going to be, hey, I need that 10%.
Exactly. They can't give sound and fair advice when you are keeping their lights on, quite literally. When you have not diversified your streams of revenue, where I am your sole moneymaker, that's crazy. I'm not a cash cow girl.
I actually think representation and operational support is what will hold back the concept of the creator middle class. Like the group that is like talented and trying to build it into something bigger, I think there's limited quality management or representation.
I 100% agree.
To support that group right now.
And how sad is it too? I think about this all the time of so many waves of funny, talented TikTokers with potential who could do what I've managed to do and what so many other people have managed to do who just had that roadblock. They just did not have the right people managing them and it went tits up and then people forgot about them. Yeah. How sad is that? Yeah. And it's like, how do you fix it? I don't know how to fix it.
Do you think that's a timing thing too for some of these TikTok creators that like TikTok changed?
Yeah.
And the ability to even transfer to long form is not there like it maybe was. Like I think we talk a lot about TikTok creators and how a lot of times on TikTok is the creator. You're not necessarily always the creator. Like the For You page is the star of that platform.
Yeah, you mean like you're a slave to the algorithm
just
sort
like
of thing?
they will drop in people, like you decide you're good. Like TikTok's still TikTok. Like they're still going.
Yeah, you open the app and you're leaning back.
Right.
You're just like, show me what's fun today.
But if I'm like a Broski Report fan,
right?
You take away Broski Report, it's like, no, that's my everything.
Yeah.
Sure.
And you've managed to sort of create that with a large group of people, but it feels like it's hard, and it has been hard for TikTok creators to make that transition.
I think that the core factor, like the key factor in all of this is community. And if you have built a community around yourself, your content, your ideals, your philosophy, people will follow you wherever you go. Long form content, people actually are craving it now. I mean, even TikTok introducing a 3-minute, 10-minute, 30-minute feature proves that, you know, like people are willing to sit there and watch a longer form video if it's compelling and if you're entertaining. I don't know if it's just that TikTok is so oversaturated with creators now. Like I said earlier, like I was right place, right time where there were so few creators and it was easier to become a top performer on the app because there was only like 20 really famous creators. Now it's like everyone and their mother wants to be a TikToker. And it really takes ambition and commitment to, I think the true key to success is moving off of TikTok. You have to move off of TikTok. You can start there, build your community, but people will go back to YouTube, to your subscription, list to make sure they're watching everything you're putting out. On TikTok, it's easy to watch one video and then you don't see that person for 3 months.
Yeah.
You forget they even exist. On YouTube, with subscribers and with notifications, I'm watching every new video Cody Co puts out,
Yeah.
On TikTok, I don't follow Cody on TikTok. That's crazy.
That's a thumbnail. Yeah.
But like I'm not watching Cody Co's TikToks. I'm watching his YouTube videos because that's where I engage with his content the best.
Yeah.
And I think that is what a lot of people miss, is that you can be funny and entertaining and pee pee poo poo ha ha, but it means nothing if people are not sitting down and choosing to watch your video, not being a slave to the algorithm.
Yeah.
So how'd you do that? Because that is probably the number one question we get from right now. There's a lot of, especially even with YouTube Shorts, there's a lot of creators who blow up on Shorts and then they try and transition to long form and they struggle with it.
That's crazy.
How did you go about doing that, of saying, I got short form content down, people love me there.
Yeah.
How are they going to watch 50 minutes of me? They're going to watch 20 minutes of me.
Right.
How do you do that?
It was twofold with me making the Kombucha taste test part 2 on YouTube, where I knew people wanted to see more of it. And so I gave them more of it. And then right after that, immediately transitioning to doing a beauty video. Like doing nothing even in the scope of what the kombucha taste test was. If I can make Jim Carrey faces do all day long, but like, look at me being me. Of me doing my makeup, or me, like self-tanning, or just kind of the joyous mistakes of being a young 20-something-year-old woman. Because that in itself is such a relatable thing. And I wasn't doing it with the intent of like, this is going to get views. It was like, I genuinely was trying to self-tan and it didn't work. And so many people can relate to that in a sense, and it just hit where it needed to. So I think it's a twofold thing of, I did it very early on and I gave them a little bit of what they wanted and then something completely different that they didn't know they wanted, but I knew they wanted it.
Do you think the people who are making TikToks and Shorts right now have the skill set required to make? How do you know if you have that? Like, I find that to be the most interesting right now. So there's this influx of creators who are millions of subscribers, but it's built on Shorts. So what happens next?
Well, they fall off. Period. Point blank, they fall off. Like, you can have a moment's success. You can be like the it girl. You can be whatever. But if those skills are not transferable, if you can't make branded content with those skills, if you can't translate that to a long form, successful YouTube channel where it's just you, it's going to end.
Yeah.
There's no longevity in that. And TikTok is really bad about that. There are so many creators that have come and gone, and whether it's due to cancellation, which we haven't even touched on, whether it's due to cancellation or, you find one thing that they did wrong and maybe it's a really bad thing, they're gone. Like, they are forever cast, exiled, out of mind, and their career's over. Or it's like, oh, I used to follow her. What happened to her? Which is scarier, I think, because it's like, you just kind of lost people's attention. And that is like, were you too boring? Were you not pivoting your content? Were you not like, staying with the trends? It's just so many factors that can lead to people having a failed TikTok career. And what sucks is that there's room for everyone. There's plenty of money to go around. There's plenty of people to watch. And there's so many niches that succeed in different ways for different reasons. But I don't know. I think the simple answer is, if you don't got it, you don't got it. If you don't got it, you don't get it.
And take me through the process of writing the concepts. Is it just like, here's a concept, turn the camera on, I'm just going to do it, and then we'll find it in the edit? Or are you writing why it's funny or like the bits before the videos?
Before I got fired, in my off time, because I was bored to tears at work, I literally would organize paper clips by size and color. Like, my boss didn't give me anything to do, and I was like trying to make myself look busy, so I was like, scribing notes in my Mickey Mouse journal, and I was writing down YouTube video ideas, and that was a lot of them. It was like doing a makeup tutorial, or I did one where I tried like Emma Chamberlain's coffee, and then I did another one where, God, that was so long ago. I can't even remember what the early videos were.
Idea, not
just
like
ideas.
it's just idea. It's not like
It was titles.
Here's the beats. Like you're writing titles.
No beats.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. But I do that now.
You do that now.
I do acts now. It was so funny when you said, here's kind of, again, not to break the fourth wall.
But you're doing it.
But I will.
Yeah.
And I'll look into the cameras and do it.
Break please.
There's a sort of act structure to what y'all do. And I've sort of introduced that to my videos as well.
Yeah.
Of you have to make sure that there's a hook where people will watch. There's the meat of the content. And then what's going to make them stay to the very end of the video? You know, there has to be something that's always changing and like, well, what's she doing now? That sort of thing. Because if it's 40 minutes of me reacting to TikToks, people are going to click off at a certain point, even if it's a funny video. And I know people are going to click off regardless, but now there is more thought that goes into what I do now because I personally, and Stanley kind of in my ear, we want to polish and elevate our content. We've been doing this for so fucking long now, 3 years. But I mean, even then it's like, there's a point where I can't just get away with setting up my iPhone on horizontal and being like, what's up guys? Today we're gonna, it's like I owe my audience a bit more than that. So I think that's the shift. In the early days, I would write down titles and I would film.
Can you bring us through an example of a recent video? Like we told you on the pre-call that we love the propaganda video.
Yeah.
Like what's the act 1, act 2, act 3 there?
That video I'm very, very, very proud of because I do a series on my YouTube channel where I do art history. I talk about art history because I love it. And the structure there is I write an essay, essentially, and I do my research and I structure it in a way that is, let me give you the historical background because to understand art history, you have to understand real history because art history is the pulse of humanity through history. What was art before the war and how did it deeply and psychologically affect an entire generation of people? And so I do that. I give you a little history lesson. I pick 5 or 6 works that I really want to dive into. And then at the end, I kind of give a conclusion of what this time period of art means going forward and how this time period of art affected the next time period of art. It's through and through, it's just an essay. It really is a video essay that I type it up and I cite my sources and I literally MLA format and then I film it. So it's fun for me because it's an exercise in learning and it's an exercise in teaching, which I think the best way to learn is to teach it. And I get so many nice comments that are like, you made me give a fuck about this that I never, ever would have given a fuck about, American U.S. history propaganda in World War I. Who fucking cares? And then it's like, oh, I care maybe.
Yeah.
And then also to take that and see how it permeates even today is really interesting. So yeah, that's kind of the structure that I do most art history videos with.
What's the common thread between, watching your favorite TikToks and a 22-minute video essay on art as propaganda in World War I?
The thread is I care about both. And a very dangerous thing that happens for not only just creators in general, but for women online is you get pigeonholed into doing one thing. And as a woman, I'm not just one thing. As a creator, I'm not just one thing. As a human, I'm not just one thing. I'm a very multifaceted, intelligent, culturally aware person. And it's a backhanded compliment when people tell me that, oh, you're actually smart. You're actually this. That's so fucking rude, maybe. Yeah. Where it's like, we've been so spoiled by these creators being this one thing and giving you one version of themselves constantly. And then they get to kind of save their real lives and their real personalities for, their real life. I didn't really give myself that privilege from the beginning. I've kind of been like, here's me, and I'm gonna lay it out on the table. And that really, really connects with people. But at times it's like, fuck me, why did I do that? Why did I do that?
Yeah, what are the downsides of that?
I have nothing left for myself. I have shared every single part of me with the internet, and there's not anything that's kind of left for me.
You got to go into some research and development for what else you could be now. Yeah,
literally, it's
you got to pick up some new hobbies or something.
I'm telling you, it's like I don't even know. Where to go from there.
Is that something that are you at the point where during the days you're like, like whatever you're doing in your life, you're like, this would make a funny X. Yeah. Okay, got it.
Sucks.
Yeah.
Are you like, I'm being me or I'm doing me? Like when does that make sense?
Yeah.
When you're feeling like,
yeah. I feel both in
At
different times. Yeah. Like when I'm on the podcast, I'm being me. To be able to talk for 50 minutes, I'm being me. But yeah, when I'm reacting to something or if I'm whatever, that is a sort of level of like, I'm kind of enhancing this. But it works for the format that I'm doing. You know, like if I was just to be like, at TikToks, that's not an entertaining video. So you have to make it entertaining. And I know how to do that. And I have fun doing that. But it is kind of draining. That's why I also want to make sure that I balance that with enough videos of me being serious and insightful and, you know, where people don't expect that from me all the time. But it's a difficult balance.
You're kind of showing your range in a lot of different ways. Not only as a human, but as a performer.
Absolutely.
Like that, the videos that I watch across your different platforms, it's like there's a lot of range. And I think that's like a very important thing because especially through TikTok, like a lot of people just get known for a thing and then they're just that thing. And that's a fear for sure.
A lot of the advice that sometimes we probably give and that we get as creators is to be one thing. That like a brand is one thing consistently. And I think when I watched your propaganda video, it was very energizing for me to be like, wow, we have even stuck ourselves in just being like the YouTube creator guys.
Right.
But we have so many other interests and things that like we desire to talk about.
Like I made you an iced tea right before this.
And you did.
Yeah.
And it was delicious.
Samir can make iced tea.
I can make iced tea.
You know what? Chef channel coming.
But I just want to say that like I do think it's important for creators to see the range that you have and understand that it is available to you.
Absolutely.
And it's actually a uniquely digital privilege. Like in traditional media, you're not going to always get the opportunity
I agree.
To show all that range.
Yes. Yeah. And when you do, you get to be very selective about when and where you show it. Versus for me, don't really have that, you know, like I want to make sure that I'm showing that always. I think it's also a very, very interesting and culturally relevant conversation to have at the end of Barbie summer, you know, where the Barbie movie really highlighted everything a woman can be. And you don't have to just be that. Like you're everything and you can experience and display the full range of human emotion and skill and like the experience. You don't have to be just one thing. And so I think me doing that and me doing the podcast and me doing Royal Court and me doing, you know, the art history videos and all that, it's like I want to show my very impressionable young audience, they're in college, but still like this audience that is trying to figure out who they are and what they want to do. And, you know, some people really, really struggle with mental illness and not wanting to be here. And it's like, if I can just show you that life is such a precious and joyous and beautiful thing. And I love living life. And here's all the things you can do with your life. That is enough to make all the shitty moments of this job, and there's a lot, worth it. Because that's a joy that I can't really put into words, that I can help women or anyone, you know, sort of find that joy. So I think that's a very special thing, that it's a digital privilege. Because actors, musicians, you can do that through the art you make, but I wouldn't consider what I do art. You know, it's just kind of, it's stuff, and people really love the stuff.
I think as a creator, it's like easy to fall into that trap of believing that connections are made on the fringes. That like you'll get the best fan base if you're all the way on the left or if you're all the way on the right.
Period.
But like personally for me, I love like the gray areas. Like the things that are in the middle are the things that I love the most when I find out about artists or musicians who actually also like something I like.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
It is scary when you productize yourself though, because then people want that product.
Exactly. And when you said like, because y'all are a brand.
Yeah.
I'm a brand in a certain sense because they tell us to be. Because it has to be something you can sell and monetize and get funding for what you actually want to do. But yeah, I think that's it's a delicate balance because you can be a brand in the sense that is the quality of things you want to make, you know, a certain maybe aesthetic that you are. But I don't think that should define what content you make. I think if y'all want to do something else, I would be waiting on the edge of my seat to see what else you would do, you know?
Oh, keep waiting.
Well,
yeah,
we're gonna, so you haven't figured it out.
I'll be in the waiting room.
Just hang out here. We'll make you more iced tea.
You got more iced tea? Rich.
Anytime now.
Yeah, I think it's a very, people don't explore that enough. You get so comfortable being in the brand that you made.
For sure.
Yeah, why not?
I want to talk about your different formats. Okay. You know, like Royal Court and Broski Report, specifically, I think are kind of like the two main branded formats. And then obviously you have YouTube videos and TikToks.
Yeah.
Can you talk through like format creation And because you go from writing YouTube title ideas to now you have formats that are brands in themselves. So did you go pen to paper and be like, here's a bunch of concepts, I like these too? Or are these just like how do you make that decision to announce, like, I'm making a show called Royal Court and here's the thing I'm doing? Because sometimes that can be scary because you might fall out of love with it, right? At some point. Or, yeah. So how do you go about thinking of format creation?
Shit, how much time do you have? Well, Royal Court is my medieval themed celebrity talk show for those that don't know. And I knew probably from like, we started working on Royal Court about a year and a half ago. And I was like, I want hot ones.
Is it you and Stanley?
It's me and Stanley. And because I would talk his ear off about like, I want to do a hot ones. I don't want to, like, I would love to be on hot ones, but like Sean Evans and the First We Feast team it's a nugget of gold, bitch. Hot ones is so simple, but it is so smart.
Yeah.
Chicken Shop Date with Amelia, the same. It's so simple. Taking celebrities on a date, that is so funny. It's so smart. She's able to be herself with that witty, flirty, dry British banter. And with Sean Evans, he really locks into that, like what y'all do of being like so beautifully prepared for the guest and letting that kind of be the accelerator of the whole interview. And that's like, it's so smart. And I was like, what can we do where I have that sort of press stop that these creators have managed to create? And it legitimizes YouTube in a sense too, where like people are now going on late night, SNL, hot ones. That's crazy. It's a YouTube show.
That's crazy. Yeah.
So how do we sort of enter Brittany Broski into the press junket that these people will go on, the press tour? And so Stanley and I sat down and he was like, well, what do you like? And I was like, Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, Medieval Times. I love the dinner tournament theater, Medieval Times. And
did they have those in Texas?
Yeah, there's one in Dallas. I went every birthday.
Yeah, I went a ton when I was a kid. I loved Medieval Times.
And there's one here.
You had like a big turkey leg?
Yeah,
it was a great time.
And the dragon's blood soup, it's tomato soup. It's so smart. It's so fun. And it's this escape into whimsy that I think is so ridiculous and so needed. It's why it's so fun. It's because it's so ridiculous. So I was like, how do we incorporate that and all the things I love about fantasy novels and Game of Thrones and whatever, and we make, Post Malone do that? How do we make Jack Harlow do that? How do we make, whatever? And so we kind of went to the drawing board and we wrote down what is the structure. And at first, we went through a bunch of different ideas and they were all ass of like, is it an advice column? Is it, a Q&A? Is it sort of this like, I'm not asking real questions, it's just hypothetical questions. And we filmed a pilot and it was bad. And then we filmed another pilot and it was fantastic. And we started working with writers. And
interesting. How many writers? Like
2, and they're twins. Their names are Annabelle and Sabina Metschke. And they're comedians in New York. And it was a connection through my management company. She was like, my manager was like, I think you'd like these girls. And I was like,
new management company.
The legitimate management company
Okay.
that I found through UTA. And biggest blessing of my life. And she was like, I rep these girls and I think y'all are very similar. And we got on a Zoom call and it was love at first sight. I mean, it was like the same sense of humor. It's that type of wit that like will piss you off. They're so quick. It's like, I'm keeping up with you, but I'm getting nervous.
Yeah.
For me, that's Link.
Link is so good.
I think Link is.
Really?
I mean, Rhett too, but Link recently at the Streamies was just like so dialed in and
They're
just
so funny, dude.
They're so quick.
Yes.
Yeah, it like bothers me because I know I'll never be it. I like listen to them talk and I'm like, God, you guys.
It's magic. They've got magic.
They've got magic.
The twins that I work with are that, and because they're twins too, it's like they're on the same brainwave and they're firing on all cylinders, and I'm also firing on all cylinders. But it's like they're so funny, it's so fun, and it's a challenge as a comedian too to be like, I can match you, and we're making each other better. And so I was like, they're gonna write on the show. Period. They write along with us. It's guest centric, so we'll write for the guests. We had Orville Peck as the first guest, who's a friend of mine. And so I was kind of giving them information. We did a pre-interview with Orville, and then we write the script based on that. And it's bit-based. It's like segment-based. And the set's ridiculous. It's all covered in jewels and coins and dragons, and we have thrones, and I make them wear a cape. And it's just, I want them to escape into that ridiculous setting and really just have fun with it, because interviews can be so fucking boring. I want them to have fun.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the format for that. Is I knew I wanted to do a Hot Ones. And so I hope that this will become, in 6 to 12 months, something that people are like, how do I get on Royal Court? And I think we have incoming requests, which is insane.
Cool.
We have 2 episodes out.
That's awesome.
So it's like, it's exactly what I wanted it to be. And I'm excited to see where it goes from here. But that contrasted with the Broski Report. I literally went to my manager and I was like, I want to make a podcast where I just talk to the wall. And she was like, let's do it. And that's what it is. They were like, do you need a producer? Nope. Do you need someone to help? Nope. I was like, I'm just going to type up bullet points of what I want to talk about, because I could talk to the wall for an hour. So
what's the difference between that and the YouTube video where you're talking about something
to the wall for an hour? Great question.
Lesser amounts of time.
Yep,
Yeah, it's lesser amounts of time.
25 minutes?
Sure. And more edited.
Yeah. The difference is the YouTube videos have more structure and more effort and more time. I can go into the podcast studio is in my house. So I literally just go to my guest bedroom, hit record, and I do the thing, and then I send the files off. But with the YouTube video, Stanley and I are like poring over ideas and how do we do something that is both on brand for me, but also kind of shifting the narrative a little bit, and he has really, his editing is as important to the art history videos as my words are, like him editing it like it's literally an art history documentary on BBC. Like he's so good at what he does, and he makes it feel professional and academic, while I kind of bring the humor into it. And so we do that for all of them. Even like reacting to my favorite TikToks, I'm trying to think, like I do beauty videos, I do makeup and like hair stuff. Like I just really want to show the range, but it takes so much fucking prep. And I find myself sometimes, not with dread, but it's like I procrastinate because I know a YouTube video is going to take a lot of time. Versus a podcast episode, it's like I can go do that in 45 minutes. So it's very different.
And is it pretty close to what you recorded in 45 minutes that's going out, or how much of it is cut?
Of the podcast?
Yeah. It's pretty close. Yeah. So it's like the simplest format. And this like, and it only relies on you, which is amazing. Right. It's not guest based.
No.
This like single person podcast, I feel like is so impressive to me. Like Emma with Anything Goes.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's so impressive to me that she can just riff like that or just hit those beats. You Call Her Daddy did it a bunch.
Absolutely.
Early on. Alex Cooper's great at the single person recount of an evening. Or I find that to be, I think that it sounds like one of the harder things in content.
If you're entertaining, you're entertaining. You know, like it's hard if you're scrambling for things to talk about. It's like, also the beauty of Broski Nation that rides for me is they have such an intense and sometimes scary parasocial relationship with me where I'm like their best friend. I'm their older sister. I could be talking about literally the contents of my diarrhea and they'd be like, she's so funny. Like I could be dissecting each bowel movement and they'd be like, I look forward to this every Tuesday. Yeah. Like I need this. I would die without this podcast. And so I am so thankful for that.
That's why it's difficult to explain what you do.
Right.
It's so hard because I'm humiliated.
You
when I
did
have
say
to
that
talk
on
about
Good
it.
Morning America, though. They were like, what do you
like, what
talk about?
And you were like,
about? It's kind of like pee and poo poo.
Sometimes poo-poo.
Yeah.
Occasionally poo poo.
And they're like, sure, okay, great, yeah.
They're like, what did we? Yeah. The dude, oh my god, the audio dude in the back cracking up.
That was so good.
50-year-old man, I tickled him, tickled his funny bone. But yeah, I think that's a big when the content in my eyes may fail. I'm like, that wasn't a funny episode. That wasn't whatever. It's the bond I have with the audience that will always prevail, which is I'm so blessed.
That was poetic. That rhymed.
Thank you so much.
That was great.
Wow.
But yeah, the craft also, like a large part of the craft is the relationship.
100%.
Right. It's building and sustaining a community of highly engaged fans.
Absolutely.
Right. That is the craft that we're doing. It's almost like you have this ball that's in the air and you don't want to let it touch the ground.
Yeah.
Right. You just kind of like keep hitting it with something else to just make sure it stays up in the air. But yeah, I can imagine that gets exhausting too.
It does, but it's more fun than anything. Yeah. It gets exhausting when I'm on top of the content load that I am committed to, take on other things, like a hosting gig, or I do college shows sometimes. I'll fly to the middle of fucking nowhere, Pennsylvania, to do a college show, and then my flight gets delayed, and then I'm stuck. It's like that shit where I get home and everyone's like, okay, you need to do this brand deal, you need to do whatever. It's like, I don't want to do this and I don't like doing this job sometimes.
Yeah.
But then, and also, you're not really allowed to schedule in a week of vacation. You can't do that. If you miss content or I'm on a contract with my podcast network. You know, if I skip a week, I get in trouble. So I don't know. It's very unsustainable.
Right now.
Yeah. I was thinking about that this week because, not to bring you too much behind the curtain, but Samir was sick last week and leading up.
Out of commission.
And you don't.
I was out of commission. Yeah.
And you get like a day.
Yeah.
Sure, maybe.
Max, maybe a day. And then once Monday hits or something, you kind of got to come back.
Yeah.
And we've both been through that where luckily there's two of us. So sometimes like the other one can step in, but it really is the reality of being a creator, especially like you running your own production company, multiple formats. You're traveling around the country.
Yeah.
You got to be there. Like it's
you also get booked.
Exactly.
Like if you start getting a lot of traction, like the inbound starts coming in and you book out, a couple months and you're kind of booked. So like, if something like this happens where I got sick last week, I knew also that I was like, I have one day to get better. That's it. And then even with that one day, we're delayed on stuff.
Right.
And we kind of have to, all of a sudden our schedule is like kind of in flux because of that day. So I was curious about like when you've said a few times you didn't want to do this, right?
No. No, I did not.
But like when I think about that, and I think about the fact that, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were relatively content at the bank job, right?
I was content in the sense that I was like, all right, this is what I'm going to do.
This is what I'm doing.
Yeah. And then at 50, I'm going to get a heart attack and die. Like
if
whatever.
you call that content?
If that's the American dream.
But like when you stepped into becoming a true like full-time creator, what did making it look like to you? Was there like, if I just get to this much money or this much of an audience, then I'm good, I'm happy? Or has that just been like, is it ever expanding because the opportunities are ever expanding?
It's ever expanding, which I think is good. I mean, it's just creating new goals, new goalposts. And when you surpass that, it's like, all right, on to the next one. It's changed already so much in the 3-4 years I've done it. And the first one I remember on TikTok was like, when I hit 1 million, I'll have made it.
Yeah.
And then I hit 1 million. It was like, no, it's no different.
Yeah, it's just Tuesday morning.
Yeah, okay, 2 million.
Yeah.
And then you hit 2 million, then it's like, 5 million. And then for a while after 5, I was like, all right, 10 million. And then I never hit 10 million. And I was like, that's probably for the best.
Yeah,
TikTok's not like dead. You can still do it.
Yeah, you can still do it. It's just like, I feel like I'm not really seeking community on TikTok anymore.
Sure.
I've found my community. And what's going to push me over the edge into, maybe that 10 million category, I celebrate my successes on YouTube so much more intensely than on TikTok. TikTok is very easy. It's very fleeting as well. When I got my 1 million plaque on YouTube, I don't know if y'all felt this way too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It was like, bitch, I did that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's such I never thought. And it was like, that was never even a goal of mine. And I managed to do it. And I'll continue to mention Cody Ko as I always do. He's kind of been my model of how do you do this successfully? TMG went from, they were coworkers to they filmed in that shitty, tiny little studio to what they have now is like really impressive.
Yeah.
It's really inspiring.
Cody's output, I would say
he's an insane person.
You're comparable to Cody when it comes to like output, right? Like
it's crazy.
The amount of videos that you're putting out. And
wow.
And also you can feel the inspiration on your channel from Cody, right? Like, but it's not everyone can do that. Not everyone can bring us into a room and react in a way that feels so like you're a friend.
Right.
Right? Like when you're watching Cody and Noelle, especially in their early days, it's like
you're just hanging out.
You're the third person in the room.
Absolutely.
And that's what's fun.
Yes.
And to bring that level of like presence into an experience like that is very hard.
It's special.
Yeah.
It's a special thing to have with your audience. And learn from the best. And I think that Rhett and Link kind of inspired me in a certain sense of you can be as ridiculous as you want with the content. Like the sky's the limit when it comes to type of content and what you can do. It doesn't all have to be just reacting or like, okay, today I'm going to be doing this makeup tutorial. It's like you can do whatever you want. But with Cody and Noelle, it's like, seeing them slowly polish and building their team around them and elevating, and just, it's so inspiring to me. And I hate to bring it up, but it sucks that there's not been a woman that has done that. Yeah. And if that's sort of the baton I have to take on, I'm willing to do it, but it's really unfortunate. For where
the baton could go.
No, I was like, my fucking leg got caught. It was pinching me.
Did you bring a baton?
That's the baton.
My torch under the table. Wow. I have lit.
That would have been a killer ending.
Yeah. Whatever. It's a Minecraft torch.
Yeah. So why do you think that is? That a woman hasn't done that, or like, do you find it that it is more challenging to make it in the world of content creation?
Yes. Period. I think that the male duo thing has been around since the sort of genesis of YouTube. I mean, Brett and Link were around at the genesis of YouTube. Smosh,
yeah.
You know, things like those. It's always been sort of the way to succeed. I think Jenna Marbles is the outlier. But I mean, we don't have her around anymore. So to take it to a level of internet empire that these men have, I don't know why it hasn't worked. I've talked about Lily Singh before, of how they tried to fit Lily Singh into the white man's role, and it did not work because she's not a white man, and that wasn't her strength. That also wasn't her audience. Her audience was children, and they put her in front of an adult audience with jokes that were not funny and playing this character that she was not. And it was doomed to fail. And that is what we have in the sort of evidentiary pit of women in this role. It's been a failure. You know, it's been only men that have succeeded, and it's like, that's so fucking annoying. Even Emma Chamberlain I would count as a success, but she left YouTube.
Yeah.
So you have to do it, be married to it, and continue to do it on YouTube. And I'm committed to doing that because that's where my audience is. Why would you ever sell out to, you know, a streaming service or this or that and only do that from now on? That's not where your audience is. You know, like, people on Netflix aren't going to know who the fuck you are. Your YouTube audience knows. So you can do both at the same time, but you have to honor where you came from. And I think that's where some people get it wrong.
So I know you had mentioned SNL and like turning 18, going, getting that audition. I know it was a dream of yours. At this point, if you had that opportunity and you were given it to, like, you wouldn't take it.
I don't think so. Why would I leave the sort of comfort of the world I've created to... I also just think SNL is a very, like, abusive environment from everything I've heard. It's very toxic. Why would I willingly enter into that when I could find the same joy and fulfillment from what I do right now?
Mm-hmm.
Sketch comedy is very fun. Improv is very fun, but I could do that via other means, I think. I think also SNL is in one of its very low periods right now. It's just simply not funny.
Mm-hmm. There's something that I feel like that differentiates you in just this conversation and what I'm hearing is that I think to take it to the next step, if you want to build something, you know, I think I think you have a very keen love for development and writing. And I think actually, like, even when you look at Lily Singh, I know she has a production company, she was involved in that, but it was clearly stuff that was written for her or she needed to fit into something.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, your even ability to write an essay at that level of your art history videos and then contrast it with, like, the Royal Court is its own show and format, and you can develop that. That, I think, is where we're moving in the future, is like what Amelia's doing, right?
Yeah.
Amelia has a production company that can write the content, edit the content, and she can star in the content.
Period.
Right? And that is where this is all moving, where it's like they're going to come to Broski Productions Limited LLC and say, you know, we want you, but you do the writing, you hire the team, you do it all, and you star in it.
Exactly.
So it's like this new world of we're building our own studios, not necessarily like, there's so many different versions of being a creator. One is you're a comedian and your talent. Hey, agents, book me on stuff, right? The other is, I'm not going to get booked on stuff. I'll make the stuff that I'm in, and you can support that.
Yes.
Right? And so that's actually pretty different from
traditional
talent of saying, my craft is being funny, book me on something where I can be funny.
Yeah. We're past this point of, like, I'm auditioning to go do something. It's like, if you want me as a part of it, I will have my hand in it.
And I think there's some level of, you know, validation seeking that at least I've experienced in my career of when we get an opportunity with a bigger production, I'm like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. We have to do it. And we do it, and it's never what I want it to be.
Why is
because
that?
it's there's always other people's voices. And I find that creators, internet creators specifically, care about the end product in a way that no one else does.
Period.
No one else does. Because we touch every part of it, and then we have to press publish on a channel that says our name.
Absolutely.
So whatever happens.
And whatever happens, it was us.
Oh, that's it.
And
bitch.
so when we're sitting in a production with a traditional production company, their ass isn't as much on the line.
Absolutely.
Right?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wait, I have an anecdote.
Yes, let's do it.
I was a part of a campaign for a very large brand, and it was like I had to go on set to film something, and it was for this larger project they were doing, and I was going to be like a cameo in it, but it was one of those where I was going to have to post it on my channel. No one else has to do that. You know, the A-list actors on there. Yeah. It's me, because I'm the digital talent, and they make sure to remind me of that. And so I go in, and the director is trying to make me do this just cringy, no offense, millennial take of like, they wanted me to walk in and be like,
You just out us as
sorry, guys.
Offense taken.
No, we're Gen Z. Colin's thinking about getting a tattoo.
Thinking about it.
He's been thinking about getting a tattoo.
piercing.
Yeah.
Love it. But I anyway.
Yeah.
I think that the director had me come on, and he wanted me to walk into frame holding my phone, being like, "What's up, live?"
Ooh. Oh, I hate that. That's the worst.
Like, "What's up, fellow Gen Zs?" Like that sort of shit. And I was like, I literally told him, I don't know if that would land with my audience. I have a couple other ideas that, we could try and we could do a few takes of. And he was like, "No, just go ahead and do that." And I was like, right. And so I did it. And in that moment, I was like, this is going to bite me in the fucking ass, because I was not as involved as I should have been. And this is going to reflect negatively on me, because people don't have the fucking brain power to understand that I'm being paid to do this. I may have to act out of character, or I may have to be a little bit more corporate friendly than my usual content. But that is going to negatively reflect on me, because they're going to be like, "You changed, you sold out, you da-da-da." I make all this content for free. I have to do these branded posts. Sorry, guys. Love you, team. But like, I have to do this. And I was thinking about that in the moment. I was like, it's no use to sit here and fight with this director who has been paid to direct, where I'm now going to try to direct and maybe, sour the relationship here by trying to step on toes. And so I just kind of took it and I said, okay, I'll do it. And luckily, thank God, the campaign got canceled and I didn't have to post.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, thank God. But in those moments, it's like I have no control.
But the reason why you have that is because you actually on set are also the network executive that's about to distribute the thing.
Exactly.
Right?
But what I say doesn't matter.
Yeah, but that's the new world, right? Is like we are network executives.
Period.
On our own. I think I called Cody and Noel media executives on our episode, and they thought they got a kick out of that. But I think that is what we are. Like we are, we're making distribution decisions. Period. And so if our audience sees us make a distribution decision that seems weird, it's a big risk. We have like this much credibility when we start, right? And everything you do can either increase it or decrease it. And that's
your health bar.
Yeah, it's like you with the executive hat on. But then you also have to be the talent. So yeah, it's the reason why I think like wherever you go next, if you do want to make talk shows or you want to, you kind of have to be the production company.
You have to have your hand in it.
It sounds very nice to be like, oh, this Hollywood production company is going to take care of this for me. How great. I get to just show up.
No.
But it's terrible every time.
Yeah. It sounds appealing because it feels like they're going to do some of the heavy lifting of identity building, especially like if it's a sought after opportunity.
Right.
Like SNL, you're like, oh, if I did that, that builds my identity in like an easy way. And,
not if you already have an identity.
But that's the thing is like you're already crafting it exactly as you are.
Exactly.
So like,
and it's
hitting.
Yeah.
And those opportunities, if anything, are like chopping off part of your identity.
Yeah.
And it's that sort of like, that sends me into this spiral of selling my soul sort of thing, of like, I could have done this without doing this brand deal, and found funding another way or whatever. But it's the opportunity like that to say, I worked with this brand, I was on this show, but at what cost to your brand, your personal brand that you've spent money and time cultivating? And what sucks too is these brands will reach out and be like, we love what you do. We want to work with y'all. Do exactly what you would do. And I'm like, okay. And then I do it and they're like, not like that. And it's like, you motherfuckers don't know what you want. And it's a bunch of crusty 50-year-olds sitting in a conference room like, how do we connect this with the Gen Zs? You know? And it's like, then let me do my fucking job. And then they don't. And then that has to live on my page for 6 months before I can take it down, if I even remember to take it down. It's just like, it's an unfortunate reality of the branded side of funding your passion projects before the AdSense takes over.
Can you break down the business of Brittany Broski? Like,
I can.
How do you make money?
Well, OnlyFans is a big part of the pie. If all this goes to shit, I'm just going to sell feet pics online. The biggest...
I imagine that's actually harder than it sounds.
Yeah.
Because,
I agree.
I imagine
I think a lot of people think like,
I think a lot of people always say that. They say it jokingly as a plan B, and I'm like, I don't know what that market looks like. That's probably hard to break into.
No, you're talking about oversaturated, bitch. That when they're like, I'm in the top 0.01 of creators, those are the only bitches making money. I'm serious. Like, if you're in the bottom 50%, you're probably pulling $300 a month to sell whole online. Crazy. For what?
Well, let's clip that, put in the intro.
All right, guys, we're selling whole on Colin and Samir.
The intricacies of selling whole.
The big business of selling whole. Yes. Okay, so I would say, and these percentages are not accurate because it's ever changing. AdSense, YouTube AdSense. The TikTok Creator Fund is a fucking joke, so I'm not even going to include that.
Wow.
Branded content on TikTok used to be probably the number one earner for me, but it's slowly dropped off because I don't post on Brittany Broski anymore. Brittany Broski, I just lost the passion for posting on that account. I post on my spam, on my side account. So I don't really make a lot of money doing that. But I think that keeps me happy, where I don't have to worry, like, is this video performing? It's just like, it's the ramblings of my mind, and I like that, and my audience likes it, and I want to leave it, relatively unbranded. Next is YouTube integrations. That is... probably every other month, I'll get like a maybe 2 brand deals a month on YouTube, and that goes on top of the YouTube AdSense revenue. Podcast revenue, that comes from all the ad spots that are sold on my podcast on top of the AdSense that I get from the YouTube channel. That's pretty much the total for digital stuff. In real life, I hosted the Barbie movie premiere. Pre-strike. Thank you. Because I would never do that post-strike. I hosted the Barbie movie premiere. I get paid for things like that. I do college shows. I do live college shows where colleges will have me come out and just like talk about how important it is to stay in school.
Really?
Got it.
That's always kind of the message I try to send, because it would be easy for me to go up there and be like, this internet shit's crazy. Just do it.
Just drop out.
No, dude. Wow. Like, please, for the love of Christ, graduate college. Like, have something under your belt to prove that, like, you're a legitimate adult. I go there and I do that, and it's usually just like a Q&A, moderated Q&A thing. I get paid for that. And then I get paid to sometimes MC and host things. I've done some stuff for Pride and like drag shows, things like that. I'll host an MC. I think that's pretty much it for the roster of in-person and digital.
What's the most comfortable type of money you make?
YouTube AdSense.
YouTube AdSense.
That is the most comforting thing that's kind of always there, is I know that even if like I stopped doing this forever, if I had like a mental breakdown and I was like, I can't fucking do it, those would continue to earn from me. And that's kind of, it's an investment in a certain sense. If I put all this time and effort into those videos, and sometimes there's not an immediate reward, and sometimes there's a super immediate reward. And it's sometimes hard to stay motivated, but for the most part, I really enjoy doing it. So that keeps me motivated. But even if I were to stop today, I'd still be earning on videos that I posted 2 years ago. And that's the beauty of YouTube. And I have a lot of opinions on YouTube as a platform, but I do think that's a kind of blessing, is that as people will continue to watch, I will continue to, be rewarded for posting that content. So I do think that the YouTube AdSense is the most valuable tool as a creator.
Yeah, for sure.
100%.
Because you don't have to get on the phone with anyone.
No.
The money just shows up.
Run me my check.
There it is.
Please.
Yeah. But it's hard to make significant amounts of money.
It is.
YouTube
And it
AdSense.
takes a lot of time.
It takes a lot. You have to build a significant library to do it, really.
I mean, even like early 2020, I had a video on YouTube hit 1 million views. And I had like 150,000 subscribers. Like, it was nothing significant. And I was like, 1 million views, Cody Co era, like bring it in. And this is like 75,000 a month. Let's fucking see it. And I pull up the AdSense and it said $400. And I said, oh.
Yeah.
Because it's like, what a joke. Like, what a joke. There's so much that goes into the back end, and you have to really spend time cultivating your channel and making sure people are liking and subscribing, but that's cringy to ask them to do that. So you want them to naturally do that. And it's like, how do you make them do that? And so spending all that time making really good content that people want to watch has paid off in the end. So I think that it just took so much time to actually start making a livable wage for YouTube that pays my bills.
Are there any changes that you would make to YouTube? You mentioned like you've got opinions about YouTube. Are there things about the platform that you think need to change or would make it better?
I think the homepage is crazy. Like the videos that, just the algorithm in general is crazy. I think that how reliant the entire platform is on thumbnails is crazy.
Yeah.
Like genuinely. There's so many things where I don't know if I have direct solutions, but there's things that piss me off. The trending system doesn't make any sense to me. It's like a win if you have a trending video, but what does that mean? And how do you get it? And how do they calculate that? I don't really, and also there's no really direct reward. Oh, it's #1 on trending. Okay. It's gone in 24 hours. So I don't know. I think there are some confusing things, but I know they're going through some changes internally right now that are very exciting. And I have an incredible partner manager at YouTube that, I don't know. Do we share that as well? Reed?
No.
Nope.
No.
We know Reed. He's awesome.
Reed's the fucking best.
Yeah.
Like really cares about his creators and the content and being helpful. Because I've had partner managers in the past that are the opposite of helpful.
Yeah.
Like in fact, make it more difficult and don't answer questions and all that. So Reed's been fantastic and has given us access to like beta features and stuff like that. That it's kind of made me, and Stanley helps me with this, of like, kind of makes you nerd out a little bit.
Oh, of course.
I never used to give a shit.
By the way,
you're in the right place.
Like,
You've come to the right place.
I would just say, though, anyone who is making content on YouTube for a living and cares about it is a nerd.
You have to be.
You have to be. And I self-identify as a nerd.
I'm glad you do.
Yeah, I
was going to call you one if you didn't.
I know.
For the record, same.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
But you have to be. You're like obsessing over these numbers and sitting on a computer all day. Like you're just like, so I am curious though, as you're talking about that, like beyond analytics and like the numbers, do you know like what makes a good idea for you? Like what makes something hit and you're like, ooh, that's going to go?
Honestly, things shock me because I'll think it'll be a really good idea and then it won't land. Or I'll be like, I don't give a fuck if the audience doesn't like this. I want to make this video and then that'll do well. So the art history videos, I think, are a really good testament to that, where the first couple we made, I was like, this is so different from the normal content that people would expect from me, but I want to make it. And Stanley was on my side. He was like, I'd love to edit something like that. And we made it, and it didn't do well at first. But then that video, the first ever art history video I made it on, I think it was on Klimt's, like Beethoven's Frieze or something like that. It was this like mural somewhere in Austria. And I talked about it for like 15 minutes and it probably got like 300,000 views and like 9,000 comments. And that's so I usually get like 1,000 comments on a video. Everyone was commenting, please make more of these. And I was like, holy shit. I'm like, Stanley, you seeing this? And so we made another one and then we made another one. And consistently through all of those, they have the most engagement, which is such a blessing. They don't have the most views, but like they're top earners for me because the fans love it so much. And it's so important to me to show that side of myself. And there's a reward that is not monetary in that for me. And it makes me want to keep doing this as a job. And so I don't know, I do those for myself and for the people who care. and then I'll do reacting to my favorite TikToks because I know that's going to bang. People like to see other people laugh. I'll do that. I'll do that all day.
Got it.
You know, that's why people enjoy watching Cody react to stuff, is because it's so crazy, it makes him giggle. I love to see a man giggle, you know?
Yeah.
So,
likewise.
Yeah.
I do.
It's a good time.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
It's a
He
great
giggles,
time.
I giggle.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's such it's a feedback loop.
And
So
what does the team look like today to help you put out this content, to help you run the business? Like, what is the team today?
the team today, as it should be, none of the fuckery from 2019.
Yeah.
Is UTA is my agency. I have a management company. I have a manager. I have a lawyer. I have a business manager who is in charge of my business finances and my personal finances. And then I have my sole employee, Stanley. I pay him from my company. He's the sole employee, like a salary. And then I have contractors. I have a podcast editor. I have my writers for Royal Court. And then I have my production team for Royal Court as well. I pay them on a contract basis.
Got it.
So that's kind of the core, and then the outskirts.
Can you talk about the difference between having an agent and a manager? Because I think a lot of creators today, I hear those terms like essentially operating as the same thing.
Yeah.
Oftentimes. So what's the difference for you, and why does each help?
It was confusing at first too, because I was like, it feels like I was doing the same fucking job.
Yeah.
And it was because the manager I was working with was acting as my agent. That's why it was confusing. Agents are in charge of getting you branded deals, finding you funding for the projects you're doing. And also the benefit of being with an agency is the connections you can have through their other clientele. Once a brand contract is, brought to me, or it starts more so like, hey, are you familiar with this brand? Would you want to work with them? And I either say yes or no. They'll say, okay, great. Here's the fee. Here's the deliverables. Are you okay with that? And I'll say, can we try to bring the fee up and deliverables down? Thoughts on that? And then if we get there, it's like, all right, yes, let's do it. At that point, the agent goes to the brand and says, she'll do it. Send us the contract. My lawyer looks at the contract. And then at that point, when the contract's all good to go, I sign the contract. Then the whole kind of project is handed over to my manager, who starts the execution chain with the brand, who says, here's the talking points. Here's when they need it by. Here's the specs they want it filmed in, whatever. Let me know if you have any questions. My manager helps on that side with the branded stuff, but my manager is probably the most important in my day-to-day because they help me. She's a she. She helps me book guests for Royal Court. She helps me kind of stay on top of my emails. She does the unbranded stuff. Oh my God, I also forgot I have publicists. They're part of my kind of core group too. I have two publicists. And my manager will interface with them for like the Barbie premiere or whatever, making sure that the styling is there and the outfit's done and all that. The manager is day to day the person I talk to the absolute most, and she does the sort of unpaid stuff that has to happen when UTA kind of hands off the baton. So you could get away with having just an agent if you're a self-starter, I would say. But unfortunately, for me, I am very lazy and I'm very baby. And so I don't like having to sort of manage all that by myself. It helps to have someone send me an email with bullet points of like, you need to do this, 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 and this today. And I'm like, period, can do. I think that I'm a very certain type of creator. Most of my male creator friends, they don't really need a manager. They're also not doing the type of shit I'm doing, where it's hosting and it's traveling here and it's running and it's, hey guys, welcome back to my. Male creators have the privilege of like, they have their privacy and they have, this is my online persona and then I'm myself off camera. I think in that sense, all you need is an agent to be like, here's the brand, fucking do the thing and send me the draft and then you're good.
It's interesting that you talk about it on like male creators versus female creators. That is a really interesting.
I can't think of
because we have an agent, we don't have a manager.
Period. Yeah, I can't think of any of my male creator friends who have a manager. It's like unheard of.
Interesting. Yeah.
I think because they think they can do it themselves.
Yeah, maybe
Man,
that's.
If I was by myself, I'd have a manager.
Period.
No doubt. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think, but it's also how I've always thought about it is like the way you just described your team is very similar to like traditional talent team.
Absolutely.
Right? That is a talent team. That's all those people are there to support the talent. I think we for better or for worse, have always looked at ourselves as a media company.
Yeah.
So like even having an agent felt foreign to the concept of producing media and selling media, which we've done, in the past. Having an agent like kind of felt like a luxury. It was like, oh wow, we have an agent.
Yeah.
Like,
we were also video producers for other people before we were creators.
Right.
So like that was sort of our comfort zone and our infrastructure was like, let's handle that.
Yeah.
But I would say that it's very uncomfortable for me to get further and further away from the business of what we do. That was my identity, right? It's like, but the further and further I get away, the better and better the content can get, right? Yeah, that was amazing.
You gave me an iced tea.
Yeah.
Had no carbonation. Yeah, that's on you guys. My fault.
But I do think that's the important bit is like, even if you are a self-starter and think about it and you're like, I can do this.
Yeah.
The unbelievable, like your time is the most important currency in this whole thing. And the more of it you can get for the creative work, the better. So, even if you're trading that for 10% commission or 15% or 20%.
Well, I was going to ask, so you would say that, I mean, having done this without an agent and honestly getting along fine, would you say that it's worth every penny to have an agent on the team?
It's a tangible difference, right? Like our revenue is much higher than it was and would be without having an agent.
I mean, you'd be getting branded deals, but it wouldn't be near the scope.
No, it wouldn't be the scope. It wouldn't be as comfortable now. Like I'm more comfortable saying no because someone else says no.
Right.
I'm more comfortable asking for things because I have someone to ask for things.
You don't have to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
I love it.
And that is, and they do a great job of that.
Yeah.
So I think that is something that I think before like stepping into it, I would probably tell creators like, oh, you could totally do it yourself. And after being like, even if you think you can do it yourself, I would highly advise bringing on people to do it.
From a legitimate agency. There are so many even agencies out there that are like, we'll get you, we can promise you 6 figures in the first month we work together. And it's like, no, you fucking can't.
Yeah. I mean, you just kind of have to keep your head in making better and better videos. That's the thing you have to keep your head in. And like, if you actually, like you said, it's democratic. If you're actually making good stuff, people will find it. Yeah, they will find it. And that you just have to focus on making good stuff.
Yeah.
How far out are you from going to that Rhett and Link mythical Cody Noel TMG level? Because like as you're describing, you kind of set up like talent.
Yeah.
And your output is unbelievable.
Thank
you.
Like
the amount you're putting out, the quality that you're putting out. I would assume it's like, it feels like media company, right?
It is.
Like there is like a big group of production happening, but which I think is what would be required to take that next step to go to like the mythical TMG level.
Yeah.
Are you actively thinking about that next step?
Absolutely. Yeah. We've got Broski Productions in the works. We've got, it's people with like company cards sort of thing. Like it's definitely happening. It's just
Stanley's got the company card.
And I'm terrified. Terrified. He called me on the way, or I called him on the way over here because he was like, Epidemic Sound's coming up, need to renew it. Yeah. He's like, can I have the card? I was like,
oh no, Stanley.
Yeah, so I was like, yes, just I'm watching every charge. If you start door dashing shit, I'm gonna be pissed off.
Just imagining Stanley in a convertible top down right now, just cruising on Mulholland.
That was an Epidemic Sound, right? But yeah, I think, what was the question you asked me?
I was just asking,
he asked the question.
Like, what steps, are there next steps that you're taking to go to that media company?
To make Broski Productions.
Yeah. Yes. The first step that kind of made me be like, oh shit, I'm doing this, was when I'm acting like he's right here, Stanley.
We'll put Stanley up on the wall.
Yeah, I'll do a little green screen image. When I brought him on as an employee, like offered him an employment contract and we negotiated a salary.
Was that something your management helped with?
Absolutely. Yeah. And my business manager.
Got it.
It's also a strange thing because like that's my best friend, and I've worked with friends before, and it's a very, mixing friends and business is difficult. Anyone will tell you that. And with him, it's just been a breeze, and we've had very few tiffs. And even if we have, it's like, because we want the same thing and we're coming at it from two different angles, like creatively. And it's, so yeah, having other members on the team to sort of diffuse, you're my friend, but I'm also your boss, is very strange. So yeah, we're in the process right now of, he's the first employee, everyone else is contracted. But yeah, when we show up to film Royal Court, I have a producer, I have a DP, I have an audio guy, I have 2 assistants, I have my manager is usually there. And the hope is eventually what TMG has done with all of their like producers, I'd like to bring on a producer full time. If you guys are free, I would really like to employ you. We can really elevate this space. I'd like some medieval stuff in here to be really sick.
Just want to let everyone know this is the last Colin and Samir show.
It's been fun.
It's been great.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
It's over.
You can now find us at Broski Productions.
Thank you guys. But that's the next goal, is to have a full-time producer, because we have a producer for Royal Court, but she kind of helps with like buying props and talking to the talent. I want someone to be like, how are we elevating this? Because right now that's me and Stanley. But yeah, it's up and up. And I think even the improvements we've made to Brittany Broski as a brand in the last year is night and day difference from 2020, 2021, even, 2022. Like, this is just, it's so exciting to think what I'm doing now, what is this going to look like in 3 years? When I'm, how old am I? I'm 26. Fuck.
Right.
When I'm 29, like 30, where are we going to be? Like, is it going to be TMG level, Spaceship Studio? Is it going to be Mythical where they have 100 fucking employees? It's exciting, but it's also like, I'm just a teenage girl when you think about it.
Right.
So maybe I shouldn't be in charge of the finances.
Where do you get your validation from?
Damn.
No, I'm just curious. Like, is it?
Do you need more tea?
Is it? Yeah. Is it? Do you need some apples and chocolate chips?
Hankering for kombucha suddenly in this moment.
But it's something I've explored a lot in this career because.
What's your answer?
Well, because like the 1 million subscriber thing was a big deal for me.
Yeah.
Like that felt like a big validation moment.
Yeah.
And once you hit it, then you realize like, okay, now I just continue doing stuff. So
nothing changes.
Nothing changes. So I would say
harder.
$1 million was like a big validation moment, right? It's
Yeah.
like, okay, that feels really significant. And then over time, you're like, you kind of become a bit numb to like the numeric or quantifiable
Agreed.
validation metrics, right? And then it starts to become like this new thing of like, I want people to reach out and respect our work, and I like hearing from people I respect that they watch our stuff.
Absolutely.
That's like where I'm currently at, is like that is a lot of validation for me.
Pure validation.
Yeah, pure validation. And that even people who like reach out to us and want to come on the show, that to me is like insane validation.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at right now. But like those validation is what keeps creatives going.
Absolutely.
Right. And we're all seeking it like in some way, shape, or form. So I'm always curious to know like, what is that? Where do you seek it?
Yeah. We're all
For me,
sick freaks.
It's just money.
Yeah.
Right. If anyone's wondering,
He's just here for the check.
Just here for the check, and then I go home and
dollars.
Yeah.
I think that in the beginning, I would agree with you. It was very, especially in the early days of TikTok, if a video didn't hit 1 million views in a day, I would private it. Like, I would delete it. I was like, I'm an embarrassment to my family name.
To the Broski name.
Name. First of her kind. I literally like used to determine my self-worth on TikTok numbers. Yeah. And then after a certain period, that's when I stopped posting on Brittany Broski. I started posting on Lost My Marbles again, which is my spam account. And that's when I let all inhibitions go. I was like, I don't give a fuck. I just want to post what I want to post. And people love it, And if a video doesn't do well, I don't care, because I'm past the point of caring. My validation comes from comments. Ew. Probably comments.
You did it.
I said it.
Yeah.
When that top comment on a video is seeing me for who I am, not the product I'm putting out, that's very validating. And it makes me feel like what I'm doing online is worth it, where I'm being funny. Of course, that's sort of the topical note of me, is that I'm funny. But underneath is like, I'm college educated. I'm an insurance agent. I worked at a fucking bank. Like, I'm bilingual. I can do this. All of these things. Like, I am a multifaceted person, and I want to show that. And I want people to see that. And so when they see that, I'm like, fuck yeah.
Can I ask a question about pre-internet Brittany Broski?
Yeah.
Did you struggle with being seen? Like in school, or like friends, or
not being. I love attention. That's kind of my kryptonite. And I was always a theater kid, so maybe that's my mental illness. I've always been an attention whore. I've always liked to be the center of attention in a positive way. There is nothing better on this planet, bitch, than making a joke and having a room light up. Like just killing them. That is one of life's simple joys. Yeah. And I've always been chasing that high. And now I get to do it to millions of people. But like we were talking about earlier, there's no immediate like laughter in the room because it's to the void.
Yeah.
And so I've had to adapt my thinking to be like, those comments or like, you know, this made my day or whatever, as kind of cringy and insincere as that may sound, I really appreciate those comments and I look forward to seeing them. And if I stop seeing them, I've done something wrong.
I think my assumption is that like a lot of, when you hear that statistic of like kids, 90% of kids want to be YouTubers or something like that. That may not be the right statistic, but you know, you hear that like everyone wants to be a YouTuber. I'm sure.
Who do you think they pulled for that?
I don't know, but I feel like part of the appeal, and I'm just guessing because I'm not like that kid, but is sure, like there's some status and money that they see that like comes with that life. But I feel like a lot of it is probably confidence and control over identity. That you assume the creators you watch have like confidence over their identity. They have control over it. And I think that's when, for me, like when I see a comment, like you're mentioning that I feel affirms like the version of myself that I want to put out into the world.
Right.
That's what it is. It's like confidence over my identity.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, knowing who you are and proving it.
I feel like that's like when I hear things like that, I'm like, yeah, that is one of the best parts, can be one of the best parts of the career. It can also be one of the most difficult and dangerous parts of the career because you're following cues that maybe aren't who you are, or you're reading comments that are hurtful to who you are.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, you're on the money. And I think coupled with that, the generation that's saying that, you know, a little bit younger than me, but also I guess still Gen Z, is like, it's growing up with Instagram in your hand, and from the moment you're like sentient, having to perform who you are, how would you not immediately sort of go point A to point Z of, I need to do this as a job because I'm already doing it, you know, like proving who you are and performing who you are, and this celebrity culture we live in where being verified literally is the difference of you being like cool or not, you know, like that's not a real way to view the world. And it's so skewed. And I think everyone wants to be a celebrity, and that's the easiest way to do it. But they don't really know what that means in the real sense of having no privacy and, you know, having to sacrifice parts of yourself and having to always like be on a stage. You're on the world stage, and it's like they don't know what they're asking for. It's a scary thing. And celebrity culture is a major factor in that, like a key player of, we obsess over these fucking people and we think, why can't I be one of those people? You know, and it's like, maybe you don't want to be. I think that's part of it. When my siblings say that, my sister used to say that, I want to be a YouTuber. I want to be a makeup YouTuber. I want to be a model. I want to this, I want to that. It's like, why? You know, and it's because she loves the Kardashians. Like, she loves people like that, where she grew up watching them and thinking that is beauty, that is fame, that's status, that's success. But that's not, I don't know. I don't get it. And it's scary to me.
You've spoken a bit about some of the bad parts of the job. Obviously, like what we get to see is like you laughing, you having a great time on the red carpet. What are some of the bad parts of the job today?
I always, when I get asked this question, I always feel the need to preface it with like, don't take any of this as me being ungrateful. Yeah. Because it's a job and I'm allowed to complain about my job. And everyone's allowed to complain about their job. I still love my job. Get out of the way! I feel like fucking HRH collection.
For sure.
Having such a tight-knit community and having such an intense parasocial relationship, honestly, from my end and from their end, because I'm parasocially attached to them, which is a very interesting discussion, in a different way than they sort of look to me for a pick-me-up or for content or for the big sister vibes or the best friend vibes or being a part of the conversation, like the third party. And I don't know, it's, there are a lot of negative things to come from being so close, but it's necessary for success, for what I do, for being a personality, you know.
How do you explain being attached to them? Because that's not something we've actually really touched on before. Generally a creator, like when we talk to people, it's always in, they have a parasocial relationship to me. Like, it's always them to me, them to me.
Yeah. I'm parasocially attached to them because every decision I make is for them. And every decision that I say no to is with them in mind. and I don't want to have them be mad at me or be pissed off at me or be upset with me or be unhappy with the content I'm putting out or decisions I'm making or brands I'm pairing myself with or companies or people I'm associating with. Everything I do is made with Broski Nation in mind, because without them, I don't have this. And so I think it's unacceptable to not be attached to your audience. I don't think it's as damaging and fucking weird as like a audience member's attachment to a creator.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in an egotistical, condescending way, because I'm parasocially attached to, my favorite creators. But I do, they are a part of every decision I make. And so in that sense, I'm very attached to them.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good point. Because like your first, even if you're doing a brand deal, like your first client is the audience, actually. Because even the brand is paying for access to the audience. So
and
like,
if they don't like it, girl,
then,
it's a fail.
So the whole business is predicated on that relationship that you have with them. So they are actually extreme key stakeholders in every decision you make.
Absolutely.
They are actually the stakeholder in every decision
sole
you make.
stakeholder.
Yeah, when you're in the business of distributing content. Because if you're in the business of just creating or being talent, someone else handles that.
Yeah.
But like we talked about, like you are in the business of
living on my channel, girl.
Yeah. So that's really interesting. The two sides of the coin to having that incredible depth with an audience.
Yeah.
Because like you look at the community you've built, and that is, I look at it and I'm like, oh wow, that's a real community. And community is a word people toss around. Not a lot of people have it.
Right.
Where they truly can, like if you told your audience to go do something, they will go do it.
Which is scary.
Which is intense.
We're mobilizing.
But that is that is the base premise of this job. If it look back to the term influencer, like what does that mean? It means you have influence over people. Right.
It's just been so diluted over time. The meaning of that word.
The meaning of that word and the meaning of viewership compared to engaged viewership, right? Like engaged, people who are really engaged. But yeah, that I appreciate you sharing that. Like the two sides to that.
I'm very fortunate, but it's also arriving at that conclusion isn't without fails.
Yeah.
I've worked with brands, I've aligned with brands who have offered a lot of money. And on the business side, it's like, you'd be fucking stupid to turn down that money. But I've done it time and time again because it's bitten me in the ass before. I've partnered with a brand who I'm like, yeah, I'll just hit these talking points, get my check, and we'll be back to business. There is something to be said that's very admirable about Gen Z and being an informed consumer. And when I have worked with brands in the past that maybe haven't been the most sustainable brands, sustainable in like an eco sort of way, or ethically like the greatest brand, but they have a lot of budget for creators, I don't hear the end of it. As I should. I should be kind of, slapped on the wrist for taking money from a company that I didn't take enough time to look into what they're really selling and what they're promoting and what they've done and lawsuits maybe they've been involved in and things like that. Their manufacturing process, if it's ethical, things like that. And this happened during the pandemic when so many things were changing and people were just fucking mad at the world.
Yeah.
And I'm an easy target, like straight white woman online. Get me, girl. I get it. Like, I get it. But it was a big learning lesson for me of I have a responsibility to not only myself and my brand, but the audience that I'm selling to. If I'm selling a product that I didn't even think twice about because the money they offered me was so big, it's like that's a fail to me. And it's being irresponsible with the platform, and it's being irresponsible with the trust that the audience has with you. So in that sense, the parasocial relationship is it made it stronger because I was like, I disappointed them. I'm going to kill myself. This is the worst feeling ever.
Right.
So never fucking doing that again. I'm so careful about what brands I let sponsor my content, especially the podcast. It's like, if I'm going to make you sit through this unskippable ad, I need to make sure that it's up to par with my standards. So it's a troubling thing because I'm saying no to money, girl.
Yeah, that's hard. Yeah.
It's hard, especially because this job tomorrow's not promised. I know y'all feel the same way of like brand money could stop at any time and it's scary. So saying no is like, it has to be worth it. And it is, for the relationship building thing.
How do you go from what you're doing right now into voiceover, which is something you've mentioned you want to do? Voiceover, maybe stand-up comedy. Is that still something you want to do? No. Okay. Acting, is that something you want to do?
No.
So voiceover is the thing you want to do.
Yeah.
How do you go from this to voiceover?
If you have any tips.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, it's probably, there's going to be an element of it that's just pure reach.
Yeah.
If we put Brittany Broski in this, we get Broski Nation.
I would imagine it's a pretty competitive field.
It is a competitive field.
We're already seeing this happen with voiceovers where like it matters that like someone is voicing, right?
Yeah.
That, like celebrities are voicing these people.
I would say reach is probably at the top of the list, right? When it comes to decision making.
Yes. I think it's a similar conversation to music where there is a large influx of creators who, because of their success online, they think that they can move into different sectors of entertainment, which they absolutely can. It just has to be done in a tasteful and correct way. I think that the first step is to kind of bring the Brittany Broski brand into more of a household name, the way that like even in my household growing up, like PewDiePie was, or like...
Wow, PewDiePie was a household name
PewDiePie, because we were all internet kids, so we all loved PewDiePie, and it was like...
That's amazing.
Even my mom knew about PewDiePie, because my brother was like, PewDiePie. He got married.
Yeah. So like, in the way that Mr. Beast is probably today.
Exactly.
A household name.
Yeah. Where it's like, there are a handful of people, even like Ninja being in the Lego movie.
Right.
That sort of shit.
Yeah.
That's going to be the next step for me, I think, before that world of voice acting opens up. Because my dream is this sort of what Josh Gad was to Olaf in Frozen, the sort of funny little character, little guy. That's what I imagine. That's what I want. Yeah. And to do that, I mean, Josh Gad, he was in Book of Mormon on Broadway and all this sort of stuff. Like, he had a very successful career, but Olaf was like, you hear Josh Gad and you know Olaf. I would love something like that. And I think that could be possible if people know my voice enough, where it's like you see me in an animated movie or whatever, and it's like, that's so-and-so's voice. That's one of the cool things of animation, that it would be such an honor, especially with Disney. It would be such an honor for me. It's a dream. But I do think there's a few more steps to get there. And that coupled with music too, of like, is the way to do that through a soundtrack, or like, does it have to be a musical, or does it, I don't know. And would they make me post about it? Are there deliverables on TikTok?
It's interesting that it's like the distribution of your name and your voice are probably the next couple of years for you. It's like ensuring those are distributed in a way that has mass appeal and also depth, with like continuing the depth with your current audience, right?
Yeah.
That's so interesting to think about.
It's exciting, but it's also kind of nerve-wracking. It's also weird to think how far it's come in the last 2 years.
Right.
Yeah. How different it is since the pandemic. So yeah, it's absolutely a dream of mine. And I do think it's very attainable, because we've seen it done. Maybe not in the best way or the most successful way, but
there's comps.
It's been done.
Yeah, it's been done.
There's a clear track record there of that. They've paved the way. So
I think what's cool too is you've shown interest and ability. Like you've used filters where like you show up like you're speaking as a Cheeto, as a potato, as a fly, as a duck.
Right.
Like these are out there and they have lots of viewership and they're very convincing. And I think that's the cool thing too for people who are watching, who are also interested in like anything they do want to pursue at another level, is like, there's probably some version you can put out there in the world. Right.
Yeah. We got to have someone from Disney watching. Right. I know
you guys are watching right now.
Someone's guys, Colin, Samir, let's go. We need Walt Disney on the show.
I mean, listen, just contact our collective agents.
Exactly. Exactly.
We got any one of us.
Yep. Email in the bio.
Any one of us could do voiceover.
Any one of us.
Any one of us.
We'll even go as
any
a trio.
time.
We'll come as a trio. We'll come as a package deal. Yeah.
Fine.
That's what Hollywood does, right? They package talent.
Yep.
So let's do it.
Yep.
Can I ask a millennial question?
Sometimes, yeah. I'll allow it.
When you say period, is that like on God? Is that like that type of thing? Or it's like, got it.
Yeah. It's like, imagine the 100 emoji.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
It's an emphasis to what the other person just said.
Yes. Period.
We'll cut that part out so no one knows I asked that. Yeah.
Do you want to know what slay means as well? Or do you gotta have that one on lock?
No. I know that because I am it. So yeah, I got
that was good.
Yeah.
At least you know.
Yeah. Listen, I know.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
Period.
Period.
On
Exactly.
God. Yeah.
That was a millennial question.
Yeah. I asked permission,
Well,
which is a millennial thing to do.
You're allotted like 3 at a time.
Right.
So just give me a warning before the next one comes.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much.
It's been so great.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, this was so fun.
Yeah, I
Thank
really
you guys
appreciate
for
it.
being prepared.
Yeah.
Sure,
Wow.
you're welcome.
Wow. Thanks for having
We
me.
had a great time watching your old TikToks.
If I had one of those mind wipers from Men in Black, I would do it. Anything pre 2021 for me, you don't need to see it.
I'm excited to see what's next because I think like you know when I think about the summary of this story, just sitting on at the end of this show, it's like it's a story of like having it, which I think is really unique for a person to just have it, right? Like you just have it. But then it's a story of like finding the right puzzle pieces in team and human beings around you to amplify it.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really important story to understand. And like, I think you shared a lot and you're very transparent about how, like what that looks like. And like the value of sometimes what we think is like, we are digital. We should do things fully independent, like entrepreneurs, and build things in our own way. But there's actually a traditional system that we can plug into that's really supportive of the creative things we want to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's if I could summarize some of this conversation, I think that's the story.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Do y'all feel that way too about how you never would have done certain things if you didn't have access to that support system?
Of course.
Like how has that really affected you? What have you done?
Yeah, I think like public speaking has been a big part of it.
Period.
Yeah. That it's like gotten us into rooms and you know put us next to people that just to get to meet those people is incredible. But
I'd say for me too, public speaking being a skill set I didn't know I wanted to try or that I would enjoy.
Yeah.
Like just even that is interesting. That like without this career, I would not have
explored it.
I would not have even explored it.
I think also like the context that people who have been through it with other talent can bring to you is so important, right? Of just like it's unfamiliar to you, but it's not unfamiliar to them, and so they can bring you a lot of peace in that. And I would just say like the like removal of stress, what that does to you as a creative is really impactful. So there's like the tangible stuff, which is like, yeah, we have access to a lot of things that we didn't have access to before. One of those things is information and knowledge. And that is like, that's invaluable.
Yeah. You can try to do it on your own, but why kill yourself in the process when there are people there to help?
Right.
So
yeah,
absolutely. My team is fantastic. I'm very, very fortunate.
Period. All right. Thank you, Brittany.
Thanks, team.